Bobby Roast Beef. We're here with Jigs and friggin' Biggs. Another freaking episode. We're creeping so close to episode number 300. It is unbelievable. But guys, we got a great episode this week. I'm going to warn you right now. If you do not particularly like the sound of my voice, you might just want to stop listening here. Why? Because I am solo in the disco dungeon today, recording the show on my own. But I got a bunch of jig heads in the house, in the live stream here, and some special friends from our Jigs and Biggs podcast community Facebook page. They're going to be joining me and kind of chiming in as we get through this. It's going to be a good one. What an amazing show, guys. First off, we got to talk about the stud campaign. That just launched last week, and it's blowing my mind. We've made some changes to how we're running it. We've kind of actually even increased the prizes. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too. What could you win here, and how do you win? We'll talk all about that. We also have not one, but two great stories in our headlines. In fact, in one of those stories, we are blowing up some spots. That's right, baby. We are spot burning. And that's just the way it is. You can't stop me. You can't stop me. We're going to talk about some of the highlights from ICAST just because it's that time of year. And just the tip, we're going to be talking about the number one question that people ask all the time. It's about finding bass in the summertime. People struggle, and we want to help you get there. We got 3 questions in the live well. We got Brandon Clark. We're talking about poop. You guys don't want to miss out. We got much more good stuff coming up. Jigs and Biggs coming up right after this. You know, it is very, very rare on these show recording occasions where I go almost through the entire length of the instrumental song that we use. And normally I've, pulling back the beef curtain, I know. Pulling back the beef curtain, you guys need to understand that there's just a cue point that sits at the back end of that song where it ends at the same time every time. This is the first time ever what's happening? I've never had to use that cue point. Every single episode, I finish talking, I hit that, we end up, we're good. No, I played the entire song right there. So, hey, I guess that's something. I mean, we're getting close to episode number 300, guys, and it's kind of freaking me out. Jig heads, what's up? We got a good number of jig heads here. And for recording at noontime on a Sunday, and I'll explain why momentarily, this is an amazing showing of jig heads. Let's see who we have in the house here. We got some of the usual suspects in here, but we got a new jig head with us that normally doesn't make the live streams on Monday evenings. We've got Ian Ty Jamerson now. Ian was in one of our slot limit tournaments recently and entered, and I think that was about the time that I kind of got familiar with Ian. So good to have you here, Ian. Welcome. Well, of course, we got the one and only Todd Sefton here. I believe, if I'm not getting this mistaken, he might actually be tuning into the show live from the water right now. And I think that this is the send where he's testing some new camera gear too. So hopefully everything goes good with that. He did put a post up earlier, charging all kinds of batteries for a big send, which is awesome. We got Brandon White in the house with us. Brandon, he's one of our New Jersey buddies. He says, "Yo, Bobby, my guy." We are we're looking forward to rescheduling that Jersey trip. I think it's going to be even better this time. To be completely honest, I do. I think it's going to be even better this time around. And I think doing it in August might be the exact time to do it. We avoid that September slump, and I think it's going to be good. But who else we got? Of course, we got Eli Self in the house. In fact, not only are you going to hear Brandon in the live well with a question, but you're going to hear Eli in there, of course. And apparently Eli had a very, very, very fishy weekend this weekend, which is pretty awesome, man. So we also got the Wolf of Walmart in the house. One and only Dave Urkey joining us, host of the Whole Angler podcast. And folks, if I'm going to tease Whole Angler a little bit here, because if you want to really listen to a genuinely unique fishing podcast, this is the one to check out. Why? Because this is where you have a one-on-one conversation about an angler's life and all the elements that go into it. I mean, we're talking everything from mental health to hydration and everything in between. Like, how did some of these folks come up to where they are now, and like, how do they make it work? And this is all levels too. I love the fact that Dave features so many different folks on this, whether they're a professional, tournament angler, or they're a content creator, or they're just someone that he knows personally from his own relationships on social media. It's amazing. Dave says, "Tease my hole, buddy." Just kidding. Thanks for the plug, buddy. Everybody loves good, solid Jigs and Biggs plugging. That is absolutely correct. Folks, what the hell is Jigs and Bigs? Let's talk about it. Jigs and Bigs is your weekly entertaining look at everything that is fishy or fishy adjacent under the sun, guys. We're a weekly podcast that drops realistically every Monday night, but by Tuesday morning, we're on every single podcast platform that you want to be paying attention to. And yes, that does include YouTube. Our audio-only podcast is available for free on YouTube, just like it is everywhere else. You can check it out, all kinds of good stuff. In this show, you kind of go along with my fishing adventures, but also my regular co-host, who the fuck is Joe Brown? American Vet Fishing on both YouTube, Instagram, and on TikTok and Facebook as well. He is more of the tournament angler side, really into big bass boat type stuff. Your boy here, Bobby Roast Beef, just kind of loves to do it all. He likes to dabble significantly with multi-species and likes to get weird. He is on an adventure. And you get to kind of tag along with our recaps of the things we have going on in life. We bring you some headlines, what's been happening in the news as far as the fishing world is concerned. But we also share some tips and some tactics. We have a lot of fun. We share some grievances and gripe about some stuff in our FTG. That's Fuck That Guy segment. I got a good one right here. Somebody, not one person, but one of the lower 48 is going to feel my wrath today. I'm just saying. It's very rare that Bobby Roast Beef submits an FTG, and you're getting a live one today for you. Of course, Jigs and Bigs is available on all the social media platforms. We've got a Facebook page. We have a Facebook group as well. It's the Jigs and Bigs podcast community. Feel free to join over there. There are some perks for being over there, but if you want the real perks of being a true fan of Jigs and Bigs, you got to become a jig head. Go over to our Patreon and subscribe. It's a $5 a month subscription. It gets you some exclusive deals, even one-times, anything that we can work out with either a guest that's on the show, anything like that. If we can pass something on to you, we always try to give a little extra to the jig heads over there. And on top of that, you get the opportunity to be part of the show process. I like to say, when we started that, the Jigs and Bigs is in fact filmed in front of a live studio audience. It's like an old 80s sitcom, you know, it's like the Cosby Show without the roofies. Hey, you know what I mean? We are here and we're having a good conversation. We're talking about fishy stuff with folks in our community, supporting one another, but we have a peanut gallery, and they are able to comment as we're doing this. And no, this doesn't go live everywhere because we want to edit this and make the production a top-notch sort of thing. We do a lot more than just talk on the internet. Jigs and Bigs does have a YouTube channel. You can go and subscribe there. We have a giveaway going on at 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting there. I mean, we just went over 500, so I'm very happy about that. Go ahead and subscribe to the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel. While you're at it, go subscribe to American Vet Fishing as well. And we've got some good stuff that's coming down the pipe, I promise. On top of that, if you're like a really big Jigs and Bigs fan, you're like, I found my people. This is my community, and you want to show a little bit of love, you can get Jigs and Bigs merch available. It's all at jigsandbigs.com. We got shirts, we got hats, I got information about new merch, very, very exclusive merch that's coming up later on in this show. And you can check out all that stuff. We got hats, hoodies, t-shirts, so all kinds of stuff. Check it out, jigsandbigs.com, for all the stuff that you need. Plus, we can help you save money over jigsandbigs.com. Whether you want to buy some baits online, we've got discount codes available for Dark Horse Tackle. We've got discount codes available for Omnia Fishing. We're partnered with Arc Rods, Arc Fishing. Whether you need a rod or reel, you want to check out their baits, we've got promo codes over there. You can check all that stuff out. Plus, if you want to upgrade your fish whistle situation, well, actually, you're going to have to send me a DM for that one, because I got a special $20 off discount code at chill.store. If you want to get yourself a nice double wall insulated water bong to really celebrate when you get that new PB, you can celebrate in style that way. Anyway, let's keep going. We got all kinds of stuff. Oh, the one thing I did forget to mention, I'm very, very bad about doing this. Jigs and Bigs hosts a lot of online tournaments. It's our way of sort of saying to folks, we want to fish alongside you, and we want to kind of share the adventure and be part of it all. So what better way to do that? We have a couple of different online tournaments that you can enter. We've got the multi-species scavenger hunt, finally getting caught up on judging some of that stuff previously. I apologize to those guys. It's been a fucking year. It has. So we have the multi-species scavenger hunt where you really kind of get out of your comfort zone and earn points for catching the most diverse amount of fish within a 30-day window that you can. We also do a bass tournament. We do a slot limit tournament that levels the playing field across the entire country. Everybody is welcome to come and enter, and it is a catch-em-all style, but they got to fit the slot limits. And the slot limits are 12 inches to 17 inches. It's been an absolute blast. The July tournament is on the 26th of this month. So we are, you have 6 days. You're less than a week right now as I record this sucker. You only have a few more days once this episode drops. So go over to jigsandbigs.com and all of that information is available for you right there. You can go ahead and register for those tournaments and have some fun and fish with the community. And maybe if you have a really good day, maybe you win some cash. It's not a bad thing, right? It's a good time and it's affordable. We're not crazy over here. Yeah, I think that about kind of does it for me. As far as all that jazz goes, how are our jig heads, man? How are jig heads? Let's get caught up right here. Eli Self backs what I say. He says the Whole Angler is a killer podcast, as is the Angler's Hole. Fair. I'm just saying it's there. We need to acknowledge it. In a way, later on in this show, we're going to talk about the Angler's Hole. You know why? Because we have Brandon Clark, who is an innovator in the brown arts. I'm going to word it that way. I think that's the best way to do it. An innovator in the brown arts. This man is dedicated to saving birch trees everywhere. He has created a product that's called the Buddy Boy system, which if you're into the outdoors, like truly into the outdoors to the point where you don't want to damage or leave any kind of negative impact on the ecosystems that we recreate in, the carry in, carry out practice is right up your alley, especially when you like to recreate around water bodies like anglers do. This is an amazing product he's come up with to lower the impact that humans have in areas where they were not necessarily supposed to be and could have a little bit of a detrimental impact on the environment, but doing so in a way that doesn't make your life a living hell. The Buddy Boy system is amazing. We are talking about poop. If all the entendre and everything that I've been throwing out there, if that missed you entirely,
we're talking about shitting in the woods later in the show. That's what we're talking about. Get ready.
And it's a good stuff. It's going to be it's a good interview. Trust me. It's a great product. Mine is on the way. I'm just saying. We got some crazy stuff happening. So it's a really good interview coming up. We have a conversation in Just the Tip where we are talking about we're talking about that summer grind. Where do you find the bass? What are some of the best tactics that you can utilize to get success in the hottest days of the year? We're talking about that. It's the number one thing that anybody has ever reached out and asked Jigs and Bigs. So we're here for it. We're going to go and talk about it. That's in Just the Tip. And we need to, let's get caught up with our jig heads here. I want to check this out. Ian Ty Jamerson says, man, I'm currently on a 2-week skunk and I'm pulling my dreads out because my confidence black blue lures aren't working for me. And I'm tired of losing crankbaits to logs, weeds, shaking my head. Bro, that is such a common feeling this time of year. And it's tough. I remember I went on a skunk streak it was over 3 weeks. It might have been a full 28 days. It might have been. And I attribute this to, it was October of 2020, and it's when I was trimming my own beard, and I fucked up, and I decided to shave everything off, but just leave the mustache and the soul patch. Number one, I look like every villain in every Western ever. It was
terrible.
It was awful, but I feel like I lost some mojo there. It sucked. Then Wolf of Walmart chimes in. He goes, man, it's so crazy. I remember getting into some shady places to get a quarter and some beer, wishing you guys could order it like pizza. Things have changed. It's true, dude. And Brandon says, I'm trying to fix my damn weed whacker. That's no good. That's no good. Man, let's talk. This week was awesome. I'm going to dive into my week. I had a couple of trips. This week it was hot. You may remember that in last week's episode I talked about going out on the water with Eleanor, my dog, my youngest of my Boston Terriers. And Eleanor is a great dog. She loves to chill on the boat. I have this like soft, like plush little bed that I bring for her, and I put it under the console. She's small enough she can get right under there, and it's nice because I don't have to take the bimini top out or anything like that and have to worry about deploying that sucker and having it up or anything. I set this thing up and she just kind of chills underneath. Well, I had an okay day. Like, I caught fish. I didn't catch the fish that I was hoping to catch on Monday. And I was like, I'm going to go out. I think I'm going to go out on Tuesday. And, I was like, it's too hot for Eleanor. Like, it was the beginning of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, really Thursday during the day. It was like Mississippi heat. You know what I mean? It was humid. It was just like thick. That's the only way I can word it. Like, the air was just tropical and heavy. So I said to my wife, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother taking the boat out because my youngest daughter she's like a social butterfly. I was running all over the place, bringing her places, and then picking her up later and all kinds of stuff, which is fine. That's no big deal. But I'm like, I don't want to leave, with her being gone. Like, she had a sleepover, I think, on Tuesday. And I'm like, with her being gone, I don't want Eleanor to be stuck in the crate, hanging out while I'm gone. And then I got to shorten my trip that much more. And it was just too hot to take her. My older dog, Hudson, he can hang for longer periods of time. Eleanor is a little bit of a special needs dog. Like, she needs medication 4 times a day, and they're the most inconvenient times possible. But, we make it happen. These are the lives we live. She's epileptic. That's why. And we have... a handful of just hurdles to jump over. So I opted to hold out until Thursday. I decided, I kind of need it. I kind of need a little bit of a bank send. And I went out and I decided to send it. It was actually at a spot that I fish quite often. And today I was actually reminded through Facebook memories of a picture that was taken 6 years ago today, right at that same spot. And I put a post up on Instagram. You guys go check that out, but it was pretty badass. I get over there and I was throwing around a bait, and we're going to talk about this bait in Gear of the Week. I was throwing around a bait and it was just getting absolutely hammered. And I feel like I sort of timed it in this area where the bite was like on, and then as like the sun came up a little bit higher, they just kind of turned off. And it's sort of what happened to me there sort of compounds what we're going to talk about in Just the Tip, because those early mornings are a big deal. So I'd gone out there and I had caught 2 dinks. One of them was pretty chunky fish. The next one, not nearly as big a belly. But both these fish were about 10, 11 inches max. I released both of them, and then I made a few more casts, and I hooked into a pretty largemouth for this one spot with a belly. And I got to tell you, if there's one thing about this that's pretty crazy. So the combo I was throwing around, what I was throwing around was like an EWG Ned head, like it was a tungsten one from Reaction Tackle, and I was throwing a Zoom curly tail grub. And we're going to talk about this later in Gear of the Week, like why this is such a go-to in so many different ways. But I was actually swimming it back, and I got hammered from this one bass. And I set the hook. Now, this area that I fish is at a dam. Again, you're going to hear about this in the Just the Tip. I'm fishing this dam, and I'm about... There's a little platform, and I'm probably about 5 to 6 foot above the surface of the water. And then there's a railing on top of that comes up like another 3 feet. So I have to flip this fish all the way up. And I was fishing with my newest bait finesse rod, which is an Arc Gravity BF light fast rod. It's I want to say it's 6'4", and it is it's a great rod. It's super sensitive, and that's why I like it for like these Neds, these single hook baits. It's a light, so I'm able to really, like, I can give them the beans. You know what I'm saying? I really can. I can set the hook on these things, but it's super sensitive, especially with like a tungsten jig or something. It is just, you feel absolutely everything. It's awesome. I'm running this this combo is kind of the topped off. I'm throwing with my Daiwa Tatula, and I'm running 6-pound fluorocarbon, and I make a cast into this area, and I give it a couple of pops, and I start swimming back, and it gets smoked, and my line immediately just starts running away from me, and I crank down on this fish and I jack him, and I'm like, I got a sizable fish, and already I'm processing, how am I going to flip this fish all the way up here? How am I going to do this? And I think number one, using fluorocarbon, having a little bit more stretch there helped. When I flipped the fish up over, I reeled them up like as much as I could, and I flipped them, supporting the rod in the right spot, further enough down to allow it to flex deep into the blank. And I flipped this fish up, and as he comes up, it was just enough. This is amazing. My line breaks right at the lure, like right there. It was probably nicked up by some of the concrete that's down by the dam, and it breaks right there. I reach my arms out, and jig heads can see this. I reach my arms out like this, and I caught this fish like it was a baby. It was ridiculous. I grabbed the fish's lip, lure still in its mouth. I'm like, I can't believe this. I can't believe I got him up here. I'm holding the fish in the lip. I look at the rod. It's perfect. I couldn't believe this. Now, I put this rod to the test. I feel pretty good about that. So, Ark, good job. Good job. And so that was Thursday. Thursday was a good day. I had gone out that night, I had gone out that afternoon for work. I actually had a meeting earlier in the day, and then I was out for work. And then when I came back out, when I loaded my gear at the end of the night, I could feel like the wind had kicked up significantly. We had a little cold front coming through, and the drier air by that morning was very refreshing. Unbelievable. On Friday, I had debated the idea of running out, but I had a meeting with a wedding client of mine for a wedding next month. And but this wedding client actually does have Jigs and Bigs ties. They are family of Northeast Wild Woman. Northeast Wild Woman was running the Western Mass Fishing Report for us and handling that over at her website, and we love Cheryl. Cheryl's the greatest. So I had a meeting with this client. We had gone over a bunch of the details. It just ate up too much of my time, and I'll tell you what, it's nice to be busy because it's been a year. I'm just going to say that again. It's been a year. Last year wasn't the greatest year for my business either. And this year, it's nice to have some additional work on the table. So that's a good thing. So I had a pretty decent day on Thursday. Friday was a big work day. And then I was making some calls on Friday. And I had now, you know, I make plans on the weekends to fish with my buddy Paul. And that usually starts Monday or Tuesday. I drop the note. And Paul has been dealing with some back pain issues, hasn't really been up to it. So I said, hey, man, just give me an idea, like where you are, like percentage-wise, 70, 30, whatever. And I go, I'm going to reach out to Delirious and see if he wants to join us. Because I realized I haven't fished with Delirious since maybe spring it was before I had the boat last year. So I would say spring or early summer of 2024. And I'm like, there's a problem with that. I got to get in touch with him. So D and I made plans, and we made plans to go to one spot. We ended up at 2 different spots. The first spot, he was killing it. I say killing it. I mean, he was, you know, none of these fish that we were catching were like anything really spectacular. I think he caught a pickerel over there and a bunch of like dink smallmouth or dink largemouth rather. I over there caught a crappie and a couple of dink largemouth as well. I think 2 of them. And it was tough to get bit. And then at some point, it seemed like same thing. Like that sun came up and we're like, they just don't seem like they're as active. And we're actually at a really small pond, a place that was much smaller than I ever thought it was. New body of water to me. So we moved to a spot that was much larger and very close by. And we launched over there. We had much more for like wreck boats to deal with. But it was a little bit wild. I caught a bunch over there. I caught three other species. I caught a white perch. Was the first catch that was over there. And then I caught a bunch of, a series of different largemouth. I caught one that was okay. It was probably north of 12 inches. Would have made the slot most likely, but nothing, fantastic. And then I caught a bullhead. This was all on the same bait. It was what was I throwing? It was a finesse swim bait. It was a 2.8 inch Kitech, and I was just like, they're gonna destroy these. And it was in a color that I'm not really like one to just jump on immediately. Did I also throw a curly tail grubber over there? I don't think that I did, but it was all on one bait. We had a good time. It was a blast, and I can't complain. I was debating about going out today, but I knew I had to get the show either recorded today or tomorrow, and we're supposed to get some thunderstorm activity. It's supposed to happen while I'm at work, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just put all of my stuff in one day, and this way I've got Monday entirely wide open. So this week, for the first time since I've had Mondays off, I'm treating this as an absolute off day. I'm going to get everything done today. I'm going to go out tomorrow. We'll see what happens. It's actually supposed to be a really, really good day. I'm hoping for a little bit more cloud cover than that's in the forecast. We'll see. I think I'm going to spend the day probably on the river and just see what's up. So it'll be good stuff. We got Alec Plotnikevich in the house. Alec, what's up, party people? How you doing, bud? Well, we got John Hagens is with us. Look at that. Now, you guys hear me mentioning all these names. These are all jig heads. They're all part of our little crew right here. They're all making things happen. So that was my week as far as fishy shit. It was nice. I managed to catch them, but I'll tell you, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the summertime, that song, There Ain't No Cure for the Summertime Blues. I'm feeling them for sure. But it doesn't mean that you can't catch them. You kind of have to be a little bit smarter about it and a little bit more direct in the way that you're targeting fish and come up with some sort of a plan. Or you got to be willing to just keep grinding. And sometimes it's that ratio of both. You got to fool around a little bit, and you have to be really, really motivated and ambitious, and you got to persevere. That's the plan. You got to persevere. But we'll go over some stuff in just the tip that you're going to like. There is one other thing that went on this week that I got to talk about, which is absolutely amazing. So the big one is this. It's kind of like our little hot topic this week. This week, I think it was only on Tuesday, I dropped this, and we had mentioned this a while ago. We'd mentioned this about 2 weeks ago, about the idea of doing something as a way to kind of run a contest and have some fun. And it's, the idea of doing like a traditional, like a call-in radio show type contest is awesome. It's awesome. But the participation level for that is going to be low. It's going to be crazy low. So we wanted to make this really, really easy on folks. So what I had done, it was on Tuesday. I had put a post up on Instagram, and it was basically just kind of saying to everybody, hey, we're starting this contest. If you want to win a bundle of baits, swag, maybe a few surprises, stuff like that. I kept it kind of like open because I wanted to see what the participation was level and what we could do. And I'm going to cater some of these prize items toward whomever is the winner. So if I know that you're into a specific bait or something along those lines, I'm going to cater to your needs. What I mean by that is if I know that you dabble with the fish whistle, I'm going to hook you up. Is what I'm saying, with some kind of gear. But if you don't, then we're going to avoid making that social faux pas. That's the plan. So what you got to do is this, and this was, like I said, we dropped this on Tuesday. You got to make an Instagram post, not a story, an actual post, because the story will expire and I won't be able to see it when it comes time to. So it's got to be a post. And it's just got to be you holding any kind of a fish, any species at all, just an absolute tank. It doesn't matter. Just you holding a tank, whatever you would consider to be, quote, a Jigs and Bigs certified stud. It's acceptable. It's 100% acceptable. And all species count, and you can enter as often as you want. The only thing that you need to really do is use the hashtag JB certified stud so that we can track it, right? And to double down on that so that we make sure that we're able to find it, I want you to tag Jigs and Bigs and tag American Vet Fishing as well. Tagging both of those accounts allows both myself and Joe to kind of go and look and see these really, really quickly. Now, I have started a saved page on the Jigs and Bigs Instagram that is just for the Jigs and Bigs Certified Stud contest. And initially, I put the way it's going to work is like this. When the contest ends, we're going to do a live stream. And this live stream is going to be us taking the list of entries that we've already predetermined, and we're going to do a tier list. And we're going to basically judge these photos and put them in a top tier to a bottom tier. Like, where are they? And we're going to have a conversation about it. And this is in no way like you're not losing any points or anything for this, because here's the kicker. Every single entry that gets posted that's tagged exactly the right way with both American Vet Fishing and Jigs and Bigs and has the hashtag JB Certified Stud, every single post is going to get one entry in there. So if you post a bunch, we're going to give you an entry in there. You're going to be all set. If you make the tier list, you will get additional entries in there. So if you're at the S tier, you're going to get the maximum amount of entries that you could earn on the tier list. If you're at the bottom of the tier list, you might get an extra entry. If you're at the next step, you'll get 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then maybe S tier is 5, something like that. So that's how it goes. We want to it's all about making sure that we get every single notification possible. So that's why tagging us and using that hashtag that makes it trackable is really, really good. Alex says, makes a good point. He goes, I can't catch any studs right now to save my life. Are old photos frowned upon? Excellent question, Alec. Old photos are completely acceptable. They don't have to be current fish whatsoever. In fact, I hadn't thought about this, and then we had one of it. It was actually, I think it was one of our users, and I went live earlier today to talk about recording the show on Sunday versus on Monday. And one of the viewers in there, Zach, he had posted a couple of entries from like 2020. And I'm like, no, you know what? That's cool. That's all right. That's absolutely all right. And we're looking at the pictures. Alec, I know you got some old studs. That's obviously. So yeah, go right ahead. Go back in your catalog, tag us, add that hashtag. These can go anywhere. Old stuff is absolutely kosher. You're going to see this contest run again on different platforms. We want to do it one at a time. The TikTok one is going to be a mess because your boy is no good on there. Joe's going to have to run that sucker. I have no idea. So yeah, then we're going to do a little bit of giveaway. Now let's talk about the prize, okay? Now, what amazed me about this week is that I'm floored with the amount of people that have been tagging us. Like, if I go through and I look at the Jigs and Bigs saved list of JB certified studs, what I'm finding over there is, it doesn't give me a number of how many, but last I checked, it was like 32 entries. And in my post, I put, when we get to like 24 entries, we'll put this together. I got to reevaluate that because people are really, really into this. Like, I'm going to just show up here. I'm going to scroll through. These are some of the pics. And we've been saving them all, and it's unbelievable. I think we're at 33 right now, maybe even more. We might be over 40. There's a lot, and they're all species, and I am absolutely here for it. So we're gonna have some fun with this. We're gonna make sure that we have a good time, and we're gonna rate them on the tier list. And that day, we're gonna announce. We're gonna spin a wheel, and that user is going to their on the tier list, they will be able to win a prize. Now, what are you winning? Like I said, it's going to be a bundle of fishing stuff. Joe had already said, he's like, I got a couple of ideas and stuff. So I think we're going to kind of keep this quiet from one another. But one of the things that we're going to do, and this is going to take a little bit of time, we're going to need to get the t-shirt size of the winner, because the winner of the contest is going to get an exclusive. You can only win it by being in this contest. An exclusive Jigs and Bigs JB Certified Stud t-shirt that there's no other way to go, because we're going to do this again. We might do this annually. We might do it a couple of different times a year, different platforms, all kinds of stuff like that. You will be getting a custom t-shirt. It's only one of its kind right now, and then the next winner will be able to get one and everything. So if you're out at a fishing event, you're at an expo, and somebody's rocking their JB Certified Stud, or you wear that somewhere and you see other Jigs and Bigs listeners, they're going to be like,
oh, dude. This guy not only takes the bigs, but his picks are immaculate. A true artist of the fishy kind.
That's going to be kind of how it works. Eli chimes in. He goes, extra large. Appreciate it. Oh, I love it. I love that. But yeah, so it pays to go ahead and put in as many entries as you can because we're judging these individual pictures based on the merit of the photo. The fish, the uniqueness of the situation and the species, like a bunch of these factors are going to come together and we're just going to rate them all. I have no idea how long this live stream is going to be running. It is going to be open to everybody to view on YouTube. And we're going to be promoting it in advance of when we're going to do it. We're going to pick out a night and we're going to go for it. And Joe and I, we're going to crack a couple of crisp ones. We're going to be doing some bong rips. Okay, I'm going to be doing some bong rips. Actually, YouTube doesn't like that. And when it's live across the board, that's not going to happen. But, maybe we'll just have some candies. Maybe that'll be the deal. And we're gonna rate some picks. We're gonna go. In fact, I'm going all out. I'm putting one of my screens for work up and behind what you guys are looking at over here, so that I can have everything up on screen. But then I can share that entire screen here, so you guys can see it all. And we'll be. Oh, it's gonna be so nice, so nice. Brandon's got the right idea, my man. Man, it was great to see Delirious. We both agree we have to do this more often. It's nice driving out into the North Maine woods and fishing, these amazing bodies of water and stuff like that, and camping and stuff. But dude, like we don't live that far away from one another. We 100% should be hitting up this one specific body of water we're going to go to, but you're going to hear an FTG this week, and it's going to be a mess. John Higgins jumps in and he goes, "A few of my fish eat a lot of the other fish being shared." You're not mistaken, sir. You are 100% right. In fact, you know what I do love? There's a couple of the entries that have come in that have been artwork for Jigs and Bigs viewers, or for Jigs and Bigs episodes, rather. Some of these images that have come in have been artwork, so I'm like, I kind of think that that's cool. I think that that's very cool. We got a couple of things that we got to jump into right now. I think I'm doing just fine on my own for the show. What do you guys think? Jigheads, how am I doing? Holding this down by myself. I haven't done one of these episodes. I don't think I've done one since October of 24, and that was a shit show specifically. Like there was just a bunch of shit going on, and then I think before that was maybe before Sean was even on the show, or it was nuts. It was just nuts. So we got a couple of things that we got to go through here for fishy headlines. We are definitely gonna burn some spots. Alrighty, guys. I said it in the intro, we're burning spots. Jigs and Bigs, spot burners.
Clutch my pearls.
We're burning some spots because we are passing along some information from Kayak Angler Magazine. Kayak Angler Magazine, just this week, they dropped an article that's entitled "The Best Bass Lakes in America." It's their guide to landing a lunker in the country's most famous bass destinations. So we're going to go through the list together here and talk about all of this stuff. Spoiler alert, these are not necessarily bodies of water where it's like great exclusively for kayak anglers. So whatever body of water you hear on here, if you're a big boat guy or you've got a fishing kayak and you want to send it, these are bodies of water that can accommodate everybody. Let's go ahead and talk. Let's burn some spots, baby. Let's piss some people off. So first up, right? First up, and a little bit of credit here, man. The Northeast getting a little bit of love. Justin Hausner is the president and founder of New York Kayak Bass Fishing Tournament. Is he the president or the tournament director? They just kind of end that right there. But he submits number one being the Finger Lakes in New York. The Finger Lakes area, really? Some northern fishing love right there, specifically Cayuga. He says Cayuga Lake is gaining notoriety as a world-class bass fishery. I fished the lake for over a decade, and it remains one of my go-tos any time of year. I still have a bone to pick with that body of water, but I do see the appeal 100%. 100%. Next up on the list is, again, we're burning this spot, Lake Champlain. Yeah. Lake Champlain. Jake Angulis, you've heard that name mentioned on the show. He is Elite Kayak Fishing Angler of the Year, Kayak Bass Fishing, the 10 qualifier, KBF Trail Series Trail Series champion, and Kayak Fishing League AOI. He says he fished Lake Champlain for the first time in 2021 with the EKF Trail. Since then, has fished EKF and KBF events on that lake. He goes, when I'm fishing Champlain, I like sunny skies and winds less than 10 miles an hour. The lake's massive and stronger winds kick up to 3 to 4 foot waves. Find protection from the wind in the rivers, coves, and marinas. Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. That is a big body of water. And that's one thing that for sure, if you're fishing large bodies of water, you got to be cautious of the wind and cognizant of what you're getting yourself into. You hear a lot of stories where things can go sideways right there. So that's spot number 2, Lake Champlain. Who knew? Who knew? We go, we're going to extremes right now. Next on the list, Derwin Chang, who is a Fastline Sailing and Kayaking and Hobie Fishing team member. He submits Clear Lake, California. No surprise there that Clear Lake made this. He says, each August I make the 10-hour drive from San Diego to Clear Lake to participate in the KBF and Western Bass tournaments. August is an ideal time to fish Clear Lake because the water is warm and the bass are chasing bait fish, which is absolutely amazing. Next up, another one here. Another one, we're staying West Coast. Apparently the West Coast being the best coast. I'm pretty sure that Dave Urquey is, I'm sorry about blowing up your spot, Dave Urquey, but we're burning at Folsom Lake, California. Yeah. Joseph Tax says, I have a love-hate relationship with Folsom Lake. Crystal clear water, sharp granite boulders, and scattered brush piles make Folsom a difficult body of water to master. When the lake turns on, Folsom produces quality and quantity that makes up for those tough days. I find the good quality lakes, that's often the situation. We got number 5 here. We're right in the middle of the list. We've got Gunnersville, Alabama, right there. Ryan Lambert, who is a Hobie BOS Grand Champion, a Watts Bar Hobie BOS Champion, and the Hobie World's Team USA member. He says that he grew up duck hunting in Gunnersville, which allowed him to discover hard-to-reach backwaters long before he started kayak fishing. He lives 15 minutes from the north end of the lake and has spent the last decade picking apart the water. And for my 2 cents, he's probably going to spend the next decade continuing as well, because that's the thing with these big bodies of water. You can give them a lifetime. It's the truth. And up next, our next lake. We're burning spots here that Kayak Angler Magazine says is one of the best bass lakes in America. Havasu in Arizona. Havasu. Anthony Garcia says that he goes, I launched my kayak at Havasu Landing Resort and Casino to catch the early morning topwater bite. I start fishing shallow with reaction baits. As the sun starts to creep up, I target offshore structures. Havasu has tons of artificial fish habitats that hold giant bass. I didn't realize that they had those in Havasu. That's interesting. Havasu is a cool looking body of water too. And I've also heard that if you're a multi-species angler, that it delivers big in a lot of ways. Next up, we're going down to the southeast specifically. We got Kissimmee Lake in Florida. Buzz Byerline from Kingfisher Kayak Adventures and KBS Tournament Championship Qualifier. He says, according to Florida's Trophy Catch Program, 785 bass weighing over 8 pounds have been caught in the Kissimmee chain. The best time to target the Kissimmee Lakes is after a winter cold front. As that water warms, trophy bass become active. Cloudy skies with a little wind cause the fish to drop their guard. In the summer heat, under blue skies with no wind, I'll flip thick vegetation and docks. It's something you're going to hear later as well. Let's go ahead and get to our next lake. Our next one, this is a lake that I think has the coolest name, and you music nerds are going to appreciate this. We're talking about Possum Kingdom in Texas. Mark Pendergraph, he says, between tournaments and fun fishing, I regularly hit up Possum Kingdom. The best time of year is spring and summer. The lake water is clear, so wind and waves make the fish more aggressive. Rough water shortens the fish's field of view, increasing the chances of a reaction bite. Not too bad. I've always wanted to go I've always wanted to fish Texas anyway, but Possum Kingdom is one of those spots specifically. Like I've gone and looked up content on to check out that lake and get an idea. I just think it's I don't know. There's something mysterious about it. We got Lake Sam Rayburn in Texas. You knew Texas was going to be all over this at one point or another. Lance McWhorter, owner of ETX Paddle Sports Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship qualifier as well. He says, I started fishing Rayburn 12 years ago when I read about the consistent stream of big bass. After exploring the area as a novice and several years of tournament fishing, I understand the lake's diversity. I don't have to go far to fish a variety of structures and use a variety of tactics, not to mention the lake's famous trophy bass. And you hear about Sam Rayburn all the time. Like that, this is no surprise that this lake is on here. And the last one on the list, which one is it? We're going to South Carolina, South Kakalaki, Santee Lakes. Stuart Venable, who is New Canoe Regional Director, Content and Marketing Specialist. He says, for over a decade, I have fished many local and national level events on the Santee Lakes. At first light, I fish topwater lures around shoreline trees and emergent vegetation. My primary topwater lure is a frog with a speed worm as a follow-up bait. Working a buzz bait around cypress knees is another great option. So there we go. We have the 10 lakes that Kayak Angler Magazine claims are the best bass lakes in the country. To recap, and we'll go in the order of the rating this time, we've got Santee Lakes in South Carolina. We've got Lake Sam Rayburn in Texas. Possum Kingdom in Texas. Kissimmee Lake in Florida. We've got Havasu. We've got Gunnersville. We've got Folsom Lake in California. Number 3 spot goes to Clear Lake in California. Lake Champlain takes the second place spot. And in first place, the Finger Lakes in New York. Nicely done. I think that's pretty interesting. So, again, like, we're burning spots, but these are
all spots you should already think are amazing.
This is nothing that that entire list is absolutely unbelievable. A lot of you guys, the jig heads that are in here, and the listeners right now are probably have a couple of those on there. Lake Fork not being on the list was interesting. What's the other one? Chickamauga not being on the list. That's pretty interesting as well. But and I'm also a little surprised that St. Clair wasn't on there. But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is, guys. John Hagan says Kissimmee is beautiful. Florida has some appeal, and I find that appeal to be best between January and February for the most part, and that's going to happen for Bobby Roast Beef. Like, I'm going to be doing a Florida send. It's just the way it is. Lake Marion and Moultrie, Santee Cooper is a catfish mecca. Really? Okay. I'll take it. What do we got? All right, got to save some of the show for the work week. Have a good one, Alec. Thanks for joining us, buddy. I told you. This is, I think that's a pretty good list of stuff. But again, like, probably not really surprising anybody. Like, it's nothing crazy. I know people get anxious about these lists. They're like, oh, is a place that I like to target. Like, when I was like, oh, number 2 is Lake Champlain. I'm like, okay, I know where this is going. I know exactly where this is going. So let's go ahead and shift over to another story that's been everywhere right now, and that's ICAST. I mean, ICAST happened just this last week. Your social media feed has probably been inundated with all kinds of like, hey, here's a first look at this bait or such and such, which is cool. I mean, you get a little insight as to what's in the future for some of this stuff. And then there's always the haters that are just like,
well, this company did it this first way and blah blah blah.
Guys, that's just the way it works. Like, every single industry is like that. But ICAST does have their new product showcase winner list, and I want to go through and give you a rundown of the stuff. A lot of people in the bass fishing world lose their mind over ICAST. You got to keep in mind that ICAST covers the entire gamut of everything under the sun for fishing. So I'll say this much. The best of show, or should I do this backwards? No, we'll go best of showdown. Some of these we might lose a handful of, we might just group together. So best of show came out as the Flux Jet Electric Jet Kayak, which is pretty interesting. We'll see how that rigs. I haven't seen most of these things on here. This next one I did see. For tackle management, the best in show, for tackle management, the showcase winner went to Busby for the Swarm and Hex Slide. The rod and reel combo that made the best of list was the Quantum Merit saltwater combo. The best freshwater rod, that went to Daiwa. It's the Tatula Cork Bass Rod. The freshwater reel is also a Daiwa. It's the Ballistic 3000 spinning reel. Then we got some saltwater gear. We got saltwater rod is the Flats class inshore rod. Saltwater reel was the Quantum Cabo spinning reel CB 4000. As far as freshwater soft lure, that went to Z-Man. It's the Swag LT swim bait. Freshwater hard lure is from Rapala, the Claptail. The Claptail 110. Some of you guys in the Hooks at Hoodlums circle will get a chuckle from the name of that. For saltwater hard lure, it's another Rapala. This is a Magnum Countdown Elite. Saltwater soft lure is the Z-Man Prawn Stars LB. Best fishing line on the showcase is Z-Man, Power Pro Max 8. Terminal tackle went to the VMC Minnow Shaker Jig. You could kind of see that coming. Ice fishing. Yeah, ice fishing is fishing. Strike Master Maven 40V. For fly fishing rod, that goes to St. Croix for their Legend Elite. Fly fishing reel is the Okuma Integrity. Both of those items cost $8,000. I don't know. I'm making that shit up. The fly fishing rod and reel combo is the Kickin' Their Bass KTB 5.6 combo under fly fishing rod and reel. Okay. Fly fishing waders, wading boots. That goes to Frog Togs this year for the men's Sonic Edge SF waders. Fly line leaders, tippet line accessories. That goes to Fly Time 24 storage and quick change system. For you fly guys, the technical and general apparel. That's the Lenwood Tech hoodie. Right there. For fly fishing vices, tools, or materials, it's a Rambler Company Nomad Fly Tying Vice Lightweight Travel Vice. Fly fishing backpacks, bags, and luggage. We've got the Columbia PFG Wildcast 34-liter backpack. And some of you guys might be saying,
but Bobby, who cares about fly fishing?
You would be amazed at some of the tools that are marketed and directed toward fly anglers that really are very, very useful for your typical bank angler, your minimalist angler, your bait finesse angler. Like, you would be amazed, especially when it's in terms of tools and apparel. Very, very, very helpful. For cutlery, Bubba's got it. The Smart Fish Scale Light. Fishing accessory, the Solar Power Bait Shack. I'm gonna have to Google that and figure out what that is. For kids tackle, they have a kids tackle category. It's the Create-A-Lure Lunker Edition. That's a great kind of idea for if you want to get your kids really into fishing. Having them create their own lures before using it is kind of a good way to kind of build that connection, so it keeps their interest maybe just a little bit more. For soft and hard coolers, it goes to Ninja. It's the Frost Volt 45Q Wheeler Cooler with Dry Zone. I think I've actually seen videos of that before, and it is pretty cool. I don't think I'm a little too old-fashioned with my coolers, though. I'm not looking to power anything. Custom tackle components, that goes to Mud Hole all-in-one spinning rod building kit. Cold weather technical apparel, men's Striker climate jacket in black. Cold weather technical apparel for women's, it's the Striker Shield float vest in dark olive. Warm weather technical apparel for men, it's the Aftgo Pinnacle shorts. Really? Okay. Warm weather technical apparel for women, it's the Pelagic Exotech. I have no idea. I haven't seen anything about that. Lifestyle apparel for men's, it's the Camp Shirt. Lifestyle apparel for women is the Striker Barricade hoodie. Footwear goes to Under Armour for the Kilchis river shoes. Don't knock a good set of water shoes for either wading or even just fishing on your vessel. Trust me, man, they drain quick, and having a good set of water shoes is really, really good. Let's see, where was I? Energy. We've got a lithium battery power box, 2.5 kilowatt solar panel lithium battery charging system kit. That is a mouthful. We've got the Humminbird Explorer Fish Finder series. That's for electronics. Under eyewear, that goes to Bahilo Greenland Green Water Matte with Rose Mirror. That is a fancy set of sunglasses, to be perfectly honest with you. It's Bahio, not Bahilo. For novelties and wellness, Rapala's giant DT crankbait. For boats and watercraft, that goes to the Flux Jet electric jet kayak. Didn't that also get best in show? I think it did. And motorized boating accessories, that goes to the Garmin Force Current. And non-motorized boating accessories, I like this. The Turtle Box Ranger. The Turtle Box Ranger right there. Good stuff. Good stuff all around, guys. So let's go ahead and do this. Oh, hold on. We got some stuff here. But Wolf of Walmart chimes in. He goes, Jet Drive Kayak. I got to see it. Like, the idea is for sure there. It sounds like a fabulous idea, but I got to see it in action. What's the layout like? Did they put enough thought into the hull? The idea between it being jet powered, Dave, I'm here for. I think that's great. He says those shorts look good too. Oh, the Aftco ones? Dude, I'm an Aftco slut. I really am. And I will tell you, things are changing. I was really kind of married to them because of their big guy lineup of stuff, but your boy Bobby Roast Beef has been dropping some weight. And it feels good. So much to the point where I don't really have to shop under that big guy stuff like I did previously, which is nice because it allows me to kind of shop around a little bit and get cute with some stuff. Under Armour is going to see some of my cash for those kicks for sure. I just hope that they have them in like decent colors, because I'm one of those people that's like, I'll wear these water shoes, but lately Crocs has my heart. They just do. They 100% drain faster than anything I've ever had on my feet. And for the way that I fish these days, like even when I was in my kayak, they're just so comfortable. So comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Brad's on the Bahio team. Loves them? No shit. All right, that's cool. There's a lot of new sunglasses that are on the market. I'm seeing ads for all kinds of stuff. One of them that I'm kind of interested in, to be perfectly honest with you, is a company, I think it's called Grizzly. And they have switchable lenses, because changing the color of your lens, it can actually aid in like different times of day, different amounts of sunlight, and it kind of helps. Oh, thank you, dude. Thank you, Dave. He says, shed that shit. That's the plan. That's the plan. We're working on it. We're making some stuff happen, guys. That's going to do it for segment number 1. I think, let me just double check my list, because I like I said, I've been taking lists. We did the certified stud stuff. We got our headlines. We did our weekly recap. Yeah, that's going to do it. We're going to take a short break, guys. We're going to come back. I have a doozy of a Just the Tip for you, and an FTG coming up, and a little gear of the week before we get to the live well and our interview with Brandon over at Buddy Boy. Trust me, you're going to want to know about Buddy Boy. We're talking about poop later. We'll see you guys. Don't go too far. Much more jigs and bigs coming up after this.
And perhaps play a little game called Just the Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Or, ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. So, Just the Tip this week. I did some thinking. I was like, I want to have a good tip to review, to go over, something that people can relate to, and something that's timely. So we're going to talk about what is probably the number one question that we get every single year about this time of year from folks. And I feel like we've talked about this in the past, but to put it into a show where it gets reiterated, I think can help you guys overall. So the thing that we hear all the time is catching these fish in the dog days of summer, when the summer heat is at its peak and we are just roasting. The water temps are high. The sun is just like it's trying to kill us. And the fish are feeling it too. They 100% are. Here's the deal. Finding bass during the hottest part of the summer can be extremely tough, but keep in mind that it is not impossible. Bass don't ever stop feeding entirely in the summer. They just become more selective and shift their patterns a bit to accommodate for those high temps and additional sunlight. Here's a comprehensive guide that's broken down by some environmental factors, and we'll put together a list that offers strategies for both bank anglers and anglers that are out on the water. So, general behavior of bass in the hot days of the summer, in the thick of it. Like I said, the
Thick of it.
Bass become less active midday due because the high water temperatures during that time of day. That's like where it's pushing up the highest. And with that, there's low oxygen levels. You'll find that bass will retreat to cooler water that's typically going to be deeper or in a shaded area. And shade's a huge factor. This especially if this shaded area is near structure or current. Feeding windows are often going to shift a bit as well to early in the morning or late in the evening or even like late at night in absolute darkness. When it comes to shallow water fishing, and we're talking about as a guideline, like I would say like 6 or 7 feet or less, you're going to find that bass are going to be found here early and late in the day. You're going to wanting to look for shade lines, docks, or like overhanging trees. Overhanging trees are my money. It's like a kind of a flag that I look for. They'll move shallow to feed and then they retreat as the sun starts to get higher up in the sky. If you're fishing from the bank with these areas, you want to try to cast parallel to the shoreline near those shade lines, or if there's any kind of grass nearby. So when you're throwing a bait and you come back with a bunch of weeds, you're getting all tangled in there, that's good because now you know that you've found some grass. You just have to adapt to make it happen. If you're fishing from a boat, you want to hit those shady banks and cast towards shallow flats at dawn or dusk with topwaters or weightless plastics. Oftentimes those will get the best sort of bite. And if we're talking like mid to deep water, anywhere from that like 8 to 25 foot or even deeper, bass are often going to connect or associate with like ledges and points and drop-offs, or like offshore structure like humps. Thermoclines as well. That's where cooler water meets warmer water. That can concentrate bass. But not every body of water is necessarily going to have a thermocline that's going to attract. Access might be actually tricky for that. As far as tips for that deeper water, the bank guys here, this is going to be harder to reach. You're going to be looking for steep banks or access that's near things like dam walls or bridge pilings. Utilize that to your advantage. If you take a look at a map in advance, and if you see that there is a steep drop off not too far off from the bank, you want to kind of target that area a little bit. But by all means, like this is a great time to go to a pond and find that dam. Typically, you're going to find the deepest water at that dam anyway. Utilizing a dam or a bridge piling or something, that's going to give you shade, and it's going to give you some of that structure that they're going to be looking for. If you're in a boat, this is a whole other area. You can use your electronics to find schools. That's one way of going about after it. And then you can either drop shot or throw a minnow or a deep diving crank or even like a heavy jig and drag it on the bottom, depending on obviously where those bass are set up, what's going on with them. Let's talk about the summer specific tactics here. When it comes to summer, like early morning and late evening, that's where your topwaters are going to be the most effective. Walking baits, buzz baits, poppers, your prop baits, all that stuff. Shit, your floating jerk baits, it's a great time to use them, but that's where they're going to be most effective. Bass are more aggressive near the surface and in shallow water. And those times of days, we just said, that's where the bass will move up to feed before the real heavy heat of the day comes in. During your midday heat, you can go deep or slow. Vertical presentations like a drop shot or a jigging spoon, or throwing like a finesse swim bait or a jig, and stroking a jig in deep water can be effective as well. And the big thing that you want to do in that midday heat, you want to target your shade, your overhanging trees, anything that when that sun is directly overhead is providing some sort of cover, and an opportunity for there to be a slight difference in temperature. And sometimes that difference in temperature is only going to be a couple of degrees, but that's enough. The bass are going to go where it's the best that they can get. And that shade is going to help you in a huge, huge way. The other thing that a lot of people forget about are your oxygen-rich zones. Oxygen's a big deal with bass. So your weed beds, your healthy weed beds, are going to produce a lot of oxygen. And there you will find a lot more bass grouping up, just a lot more fish in general, because that's where the more oxygenated water is. If you can get in your moving water, if you have like an inlet from a stream or something that connects with a body of water that you're fishing, great, that's going to help as well. And if you're fishing a pond that has a fountain, that fountain action is going to oxygenate the water as well. That's going to be a spot where you're going to find fish group up, because that's where it's going to be the most oxygen rich. As far as your night fishing stuff, and this is something where I specifically need to focus on, some of the tips that I have been told and people have shared is that bass feed in the shallows under cover of darkness, using something like a black spinnerbait, a big worm, or top waters around docks or rocky banks can certainly make it work. And here's a couple of additional tips, guys. Use a thermometer. If you're in a boat and you've got a fish finder, bingo, you're good to go. Even knowing that surface water temperature is going to give you an idea of exactly what's going on. It's a little bit more insight. If you're a bank angler, there are thermometers that you can tie on to the end of a line and actually just make a cast. Throw it out there. Make that like the first thing that you do, because then that would just give you an idea. And the nice thing is about some of these thermometers sink. So you can actually get a temp at the depth of where you are. So if you're looking at on your phone and you've got a topo map and you have an idea that, oh yeah, I know that this spot is about 7 foot deep, and you can drop that thermometer down, great. If you've got a floating thermometer, that's great too. That's going to give you that surface temperature. That surface temperature is going to be higher than it would be later in there. But again, everything is relative here. You just got to keep it all in mind. You want to watch your bait fish, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. Bass follow the food. That's a very, very simple principle. Summer shad and bluegill patterns are going to help dictate lure choice. Like, what are they doing? Do you have a bunch of bluegill? Are they spawning? Are these spawning bluegill super aggressive? This is going to help you choose either colors, but also the profile, the size of the baits as well. And then I said it before, but I put it in here again. Oxygen is the name of the game. After prolonged heat, bass will choose oxygen over temperature. Areas that have aeration of some kind, like a spring inflow, or again, healthy vegetation, are key. And I want to mention something about that vegetation. We complain on this show a lot about these bodies of water these bodies of water where they treat chemically the weeds. Now, I will say this, while that sucks because it eliminates a lot of the oxygen-producing properties that are in there, putting a little bit more demand on other elements to do so, those dead plants that aren't growing or producing anymore, they will provide cover from the sun. So if you see them, you can find bass in them. I'm not saying that they're the ones that are going to get, the big population here, but if you are finding vegetation, you very well might find fish that are utilizing that dead vegetation as cover from the sun. And it might be a certain formula that plays out. Maybe that dead weed bed is near a drop off and there's access to deep water. Something like that. Keep that in mind. And this is where I always say, like, I rather when they dredge versus when they treat with chemicals. When they dredge, those weeds are gone. They grow back. Thank God they grow back. So the oxygen is there. That'll help. But it takes a little bit of time. Those weeds are gone. So the cover is kind of disappears for a little while. I love this. This is great. You guys chimed in all the way. Wow, you guys are nuts. Hello, Thermocline. Let's see what we got. Told him I was gone. Joe was cheating. Joe's always cheating. Does anybody else quote the entire intro as it's playing? Eli says, John says, hello, Thermocline. Eli says, shade lines. Hell yeah, shade lines. Shade lines are important. Shade is cover. Keep that in mind. Cover is something that can take many forms, and shade for sure is something that you've got to keep in mind. Shit, you could consider cloud cover. You know, you get those clouds overhead and it increases the bass's willingness sometimes to get away from whatever they were using as cover because they don't have the open sun over them, making them vulnerable from things like birds of prey or something like that. Deeper water sometimes starts above the bank. If you're fishing near a steep hill, sometimes that steep drop continues over the water or into the water. You're 100% right with that, John. You can keep that in mind. If you're walking along a place and you see like just like a sheer cliff that goes in, that probably continues all the way down. And it's really easy to figure out if it does. Throw a jig or any bottom bait over there, and you'll get an idea like, holy shit, that's deep. Real fast. You'll get a real fast idea of that. Andy Wienerfingers, he says, you better be listening to this. Definitely for the jigs and big slot limit, this is the juice. Oh, shit, did I say too much? Did I? July 26th is coming up. It is. Rockwall. Eli says, Rockwall, they can pin bait against the rock. Oh, for sure. Like, if you get a vertical rock wall, that can sometimes hold fish. In fact, I was fishing one of those last week, the weekend I was supposed to be at in Jersey. It was one of those exact situations, and I was like, I feel like there's going to be fish tight to that wall right there. And oddly enough, the sun was going in a direction where that big rock wall was casting a huge shadow out onto the water, and I caught a number of fish right there. Andy only listens to the podcast. We love Andy regardless. That is nothing wrong with that. John Hagan says dams equal high oxygen and bait density. That's absolutely true. Dams are a great, like that man-made structure just in general is something that deserves your attention. And dams for sure.
God damn.
I'm just saying. Dave says that this is the best just the tip yet. I'm glad you appreciate it, dude. I really am. He says, thermometer, I'll just make Andy stick his wiener fingers in the water and give him a nice educated idea. Yeah, there we go. There, I like that. Eli says, and this is great. He goes, I swam in the water last weekend. It was 80-degree water. Felt like bath water. He says, is there a good place to learn about different types of weeds? He says they can also see way farther by being in the shade. Yeah, that's true too. They're not blinded. Bass don't have eyelids, you know. A good place to learn about weeds.
I'm not really the most wholesome guy to explain weeds to you, Eli.
No, in all seriousness, this is one of those situations where it's a good idea to do some looking at your state's Department of Fish and Wildlife or whatever organization your state is in charge of for your natural resources, and look up individual bodies of water that you fish. And lots of times what you'll see is a breakdown of what types of vegetation are found in that body of water. And that's going to, now keep in mind that is going to pay attention to, like, if there's a date on the records that you're looking at, that might not account for maybe the potential, invasive species of vegetation that was introduced to that body of water. That shit does happen. But yeah, that's probably your best bet, is to look local. Get an idea from there. Once you identify that type of vegetation that's growing in there and you've got an idea of what it is, even if you just Google the images for the stuff and get an idea, there are actually really good informational graphics that will show you, like, oh, this is what coontail looks like. This is what this milfoil looks like. This is what this hydrilla looks like. And you can take that information, and then when you're on the water, just kind of say, like, okay, so this is what we're looking at here. And, I have no idea about the specific variations of vegetation and what they can or cannot do for a population of fish. we'll just figure. I just kind of look at grass is grass. In my opinion, I want to know where it ends. I want to know how deep it goes. I want to be able to find it. That's a big one for me. John nailed it. He says, call your local weed man. He says, there's a lot of invasive milfoil in Ohio, Eli, and there is a lot. The invasive vegetation species they're all over the place. And that's why, like, take a look at the records that you have, but keep in mind the date. That's a big one. Because if it's, if you're looking at records that are like 30 or 40, 50 years old, odds are something has been introduced in that area that's not up to snuff over there. In fact, it's funny. I was fishing just this weekend with Delirious, and like I said, both of the places we fished, I had no experience with. I hooked a smallmouth, and I had no idea that there were smallmouth in here. In fact, when I had looked previously, nothing had been like registered or noted that there are smallmouth species were in that body of water, but here the fuck we are. I also didn't know that they had freaking bullhead that would, crush a soft plastic swim bait. A big Joshy. Great combo, too. Great combo. Chartreuse color perfected ball head jig on a black big Joshy with red eyes. I don't know what it was. It just freaking loved it. Anyway, that's just the tip for this week. I hope you guys got a little something out of it, because this is like the number one topic people ask about. A lot of people struggle in the summer, and if you want to kind of, make the best of it, there are some tips. You can target those early hours and the late hours of the day where the sun is a little bit less abusive, and make sure that you target specific stuff. You want to be looking for shade, you want to look for oxygen, and you want to look for any kind of an area where fish can get some cover. That's the name of the game right there. Is there a magic bait? Nope. I genuinely don't think that there is a magic bait or anything like that. I just think you just gotta throw your confidence and stick with it. But let's go ahead. Let's do this. This is going to be an interesting one because I haven't done this in a long time.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
So this week's FTG right here is going to go to a one specific state department, and I'm going to paint the picture for you guys. So I live in Massachusetts, right? Massachusetts has its issues. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that every state doesn't have its issues. It does. It's fine. But I'll tell you what, like Massachusetts state parks are run pretty great. Overall, it's like there's some dumb shit that goes down, whatever. But I have, we live in a world now, it's 2025. Things like technology have allowed us to be able to do things in a much, much more efficient way. And let me paint the picture. So this was last Friday. I was talking with Delirious, and I said, look, I'm looking at a couple of different spots that I want to fish. One of them is this spot, and it was a drive. It was like twice the drive for Delirious than it was for me. Now, I will go there. I actually might go there tomorrow morning. I might just go there tomorrow morning and just send her and make it happen. Because it's fun. It's worth it. But I felt bad putting the pressure on Delirious to make him drive all the way there when I haven't caught any real giants there. I've had some okay numbers days and lots of small fish. I just have a feeling I just haven't turned up on the big fish yet. And this body of water, half of the experience for me is to submerge myself in a really, really unique type of environment. Like I just think this is a beautiful place. So I had a backup plan, and it was similar body of water, the way it kind of straddled the Mass Connecticut line, and the body of water was Lake Mashapog. Right. And I've only ever fished this lake one time with my dad. We had a really good time, actually. I struggled early when I got there, throwing around a bunch of stuff. My dad caught a bunch of like panfish and perch on like redworms and night crawlers. Eventually, the bite kind of turned on for me where I was catching dink bass all over the place. But the same day, I remember having a conversation with the butcher, Ryan Bogley, and he was like, dude, I was out there with my buddy this afternoon and like giant smallies and blah. And I'm like, so this is a place that's got my interest. It truly, truly does. Now, it abuts a state park. And the problem with this is that state park limits access to the body of water, to the launch, until a specific hour. So the FTG this week goes to the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. I don't know why I just pushed that button. Because, guys, in the year 2025, there is no reason why you shouldn't have a connection to an app like Yodel to handle your parking for the boat launch area or anything like that. They have the archaic gate and attendant system where you have to go and pay to park. The problem is they don't staff the gate until 8 a.m. And at, was it 5:40? I pulled up to the gate with Delirious and he pulled up first and texted me. He was like,
bro, the gate's locked with a sign that says it's not open till 8.
What the actual fuck? In fact, it was so bad that when I put my directions in maps and it was sending me on my way, it wanted me to turn off what was a private road. And apparently this is enough of a common thing because they have a really nice sign there that says no lake access, private property. And I mean, when I say a nice sign, it's a really nice sign, like engraved with like reflective paint and stuff like this. Like you can't miss it. I almost made the turn and I was like, what's this? No traffic around, so I just backed her right up and took off, and I adjusted my route. I got up there and I saw this. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Even Congamon Jr. has the Yodel system in place and a kiosk where if you're like, I don't
have a smartphone. I don't know what the hell you're even talking about. All I got is this dumb phone.
Like, you can go to the kiosk and handle your parking right there. They've set up the ramp so that there's access through the park and then not through the park. For a while, it was all the boat ramp access was through a separate entrance back and forth. Now they play this game where there's a gate on each side, and on park hours, they open the park side. Off park hours, they open the gate side that goes right to the street. It's whatever. I get it. But there is no good reason for somebody to close that gate and then work whatever. Because if you've got people coming in and you're worried about other people, utilizing the park's resources or the chemical toilets or whatever, like I get it, but you're going to have people walking in anyway. Like that shit's just going to happen. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think in a year 2025, you can do better. So for the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, that was an epic fail on your part. So we took our festivities back into Massachusetts is what we did from there. That's what we did. So that's the FTG this week. Nobody calling anything in. So it is what it is. I am going to go ahead and jump into our Gear of the Week because this, I think, is a good one.
Okay, gearheads, it's time to talk tools. Jigs and Big's Gear of the Week.
Alrighty, guys. Gear of the Week this week's a good one. What we're talking about here is a bait, a specific soft plastic that I've been using for a long time, and I really love it. And I think that it was, and Eli, I know that you're a listener of Tackle Talk, and you might be able to help me out. But I want to say that on the list of, I think it was the most underrated baits, it was the curly tail grub, if I'm not mistaken, that Andrew from Tackle Talk had thrown out there. The curly tail grub. Let's give a round of applause for the curly tail grub. Let me go ahead and give you guys a little bit of an insight of where this all came from. I have been throwing curly tail grubs for a long time. I have always kind of treated them like a Ned style bait that's got a little bit of action. I find that they are available in such a large variety of size, and they're not necessarily in a shape or a design that is specific to any one natural type of forage, yet because of the way that you fish them, they could be anything. They could be looked at as a small worm. They could be looked at as a bait fish. They could be looked at as many, many things. And I find that it's often overlooked big time. So I was getting ready for this trip to Jersey, and I needed a couple of things. And I went into a big box local or a big box tackle retailer, and I went in and I was looking for a handful of these items, and I got most of what I was looking for, which were like specific soft plastics, paddle tails, things like that. I actually have some that are in the mail to me right now, which is exactly what I was looking for, but here we are. And I happened around this corner, and as I was there was this big Zoom display, and on the Zoom display, there just a huge variety of curly tail grubs. And, you know, that 4 and 5 inch curly tail grub is really, really sort of ideal. Like that 4-inch curly tail grub is just, it's almost perfect, you know? The action on that tail is pretty solid, but also a little bit more tight. It's a little bit wild of an action, the way that it whips around side to side, but it's in line with the bait. Unlike a swim bait style like a Kitech, which will kick really wide back and forth. So this comes in really handy because you can swim these, you can bounce them along the bottom, and there's a ton that you can do with it. So I was fishing that weekend with one of these, and I happened to catch, I think it was a rock bass on one, and then I think the other one that I caught, no, that was on a swim bait. That Smalley was on a swim bait. And I just find them to be really great. But the reason why I bring this up is I had... and I mentioned this in my weekly report when I went over the details. When I was out bank fishing, this was on Thursday morning, I started out throwing a specific swim bait, and just wasn't getting bit. And then I was like, well, this water's really muddy. Like, it's gross. It's really like chocolate milk. And I said, let me throw something that's got a little bit more like vibration or thump. And I threw out a small spinner with a Colorado blade. This is the Pig Jigs BF spinner, specifically the Mud Monster, which is a great color because it is like dark black and purple with on the very tips of the skirt are bright chartreuse. And it's just badass. So I throw this around and I'm like, let's see if this will get bit. Nothing. So I said, maybe I have to throw something a little bit more on the bottom. But I was kind of like... I also want the ability to cover water a little bit more. So instead of throwing like a craw style, like a jig or something like that, I opted to take a Ned head, a small 16th ounce Ned head, and I put one of these curly tail grubs on, and I just took my my trusty Spike It markers. This was a green pumpkin one, in fact, and I took my Spike It marker with the chartreuse one and covered the tail pretty significantly because, again, this is really, really muddy water. I just wanted this color to kind of flap around back there and kind of get some attention. And yeah, it did 100%. In fact, the first cast I made with it, I was bouncing it along the bottom, and I would kind of follow this pattern where I would just do like a small hop, and then I'd kind of stroke that jig and let it come up and fall. Well, on that stroke, on the fall back down, bang, it got hit. Little dink, no sweat. Next fish. Same thing. Dink about the same size, just not as chunky. And then I caught a big one. This was just swimming it back, covering some water, and it just absolutely hammered it. So I just want to give a little bit of love to the curly tail grub. If you're looking to downsize what you're carrying for a specific send, or you're like, this is a great bait to play the color profile with, because this will get bit. It's got action. It doesn't have crazy heavy action. It's relatively subtle. You can fish it on the bottom. You can fish it higher up in the water column. You can cover water with it. But it's versatile, and that's the key. And if you have one jig head tied on and you're like, maybe white's the color, it's really much easier to just change out to a different color plastic. So what I did was, when I saw these here, I went and I bought 3 different colors. One of them was clearly green pumpkin, and I bought 2 other colors that were different sort of animals entirely. And I wanted to just kind of cover my bases. And I'm a believer. I'm 100% a believer, and I think you should be too. Let's go ahead. Eli says right here, he goes, micro buzz and curly tail grub. See, that's exactly what I was thinking. Micro buzz and weed whacker, I think that could be absolutely dynamite. Because there's something about that curly tail. It's so tight the way that it wiggles. And I'm not 100% sure that there's a right way to rig the curly tail grub. I wish I had one down here to show you with a hook. Sometimes I put that curl so that it goes up with the hook, and I've noticed that it runs great. Sometimes without even thinking, I'll put it on the other way, and it seems to run differently. It genuinely does. So I don't know if that is in my mind, if I'm seeing things differently, or if any of you guys have noticed that, but I want to take a look at this comment here from John Higgins. He goes, doubling up on white bass using a double jig rig with curly tails is a blast. You know what I was actually even considering? I wonder how they would work on like a baby A rig. You know, just a little extra. That could be kind of cool. On the bait, yeah, keep it simple. KSS. I'm all about the curly tail grub. I'm all about it. And, you know, throwing on like, you can throw them on a variety of hardware. You can throw it on a ball head jig. You could throw it as a trailer on a bass jig. I've done that in the past. Like a black curly tail grub on the back of one of those Giltech finesse jigs is just sexy looking. Same thing with like a screw lock jig, but an EWG Ned is a really nice way to throw them in a weedless situation. Like, you want to throw that sucker up into some wood. It's nice and compact. There's a little bit of action. You know, you get it out of that cover and then just swim it back. You know, why waste that cast? Just swim it back. Might get hammered. John Higgins chimes in. He goes, also slow fishing black curly tails on the bottom will pick up carp because it mimics a leech. That's the other thing that I was thinking of yeah, I could see that for sure. Like a dark color, like if you get just straight up black curly tail grubs, I could definitely see that. Although I will say it probably helps if you have leeches in that body of water. I think that that's a big thing because not every body of water has leeches in there, I believe. I don't know. I could be wrong. Anyway, guys, that is our second segment here. We're going to take a short break, but before we do that, before we take this break and kick over to our guest, again, coming up next, we got Brandon Clark. He is the owner of Buddy Boy, which is an amazing tool for anybody who enjoys the outdoors, whatever your activity is, but specifically with us in the fishing niche. When you're near a body of water, the take in or the take out what you take in rule plays big time. So pay attention to this, guys. I think this is something that you might enjoy. I'm putting not one but two of these in my boat, and the reason is I will have one for myself, and then if I have a friend that needs one, they just bought it from me. Listen to the interview and you'll figure it out. We're talking about poop, but we have some really good interviews coming up in the next few weeks. Just next week alone, actually it looks like in the next 7 days, I'm recording with Sam from the Northwest Wind. He is a fishing and camping YouTuber. We're going to talk all kinds of good stuff. I didn't realize he was so close to me. He's only in the Pennsylvania area, so I would actually like to do some collabs with him. We're going to talk, share some fishing stories, share some camping stories, share some tips, all that stuff. That's coming up. I'm recording with him just this week. And then I got Rachel Mullins on the schedule for later this week. Rachel Mullins, you might know better from her Instagram, Adventure Titties. Rachel is she was just at ICAST this past week, and we're going to talk about her experience there, but we're also going to talk about like what she's doing. We're going to get into the subject of women in fishing. You know, what has her experience been like, and what's been great and what's been not so great, and how could we make it better? That's what we're going to talk about. And then I've got Raw Fishing on the line. We're recording early next week. In fact, that's going to be down to the wire, but it will make next week's show, which is really good. I've been looking forward to having Jimmy on the show for a while. Raw Fishing, some of you guys might know, he is really, really kind of well known for some of these. Back in the day, he used to do these rigging technique videos that were really cool, like this, just like a hands on the desk, like rigging stuff. Like he was the guy that I learned what the Jico rig was. was, and some of these really unique rigs. He has a great YouTube channel. He's a East Coast angler, and we're going to dive into. He's also a bait finesse fanatic and kind of the spokesperson a little bit for Bait Finesse Empire. So we're gonna check a lot of boxes with Jimmy when we record next week. It's gonna be really, really good. And what do we got here? Eli says, "What's this XP thing? What are you talking about, Eli? XP?" We'll talk about that when we get into live. Well, guys. Right after this break, we've got Brandon Clark, Buddy Boy. You're not going to want to miss it. More Jigs and Bigs coming. I can't believe this. This is awesome. Live well coming up after the interview. Alrighty, guys. Bobby Roast Beef back at it. We have another interview segment this week, a different kind of guest. But before we dive into this, I want you guys to allow me to paint a picture for you in various shades of brown. I want our listener to imagine themselves on the water, whatever method you like to fish. Maybe you're on the bank and you're just kind of hiking through an area and you're going spot to spot fishing. Maybe you're pond hopping and you're going from one location to another. And these places are, maybe some are brand new to you. Maybe you're out on a kayak and space is at a premium, and you're on the water, you're off the bank, but maybe you're just surrounded by yards and yards and yards of open water and nobody's around you, or maybe you're on a boat on a big lake and you can't even see the shore from where you are, something like that. And the inevitable happens. That gas station breakfast burrito you had at 4 a.m. that sounded like a good idea is now fighting a fight that you're not ready to stand up to. What do you do? What do we do? We've had conversations in the past on the show about folks, having to do their business in the great outdoors and then having to, accost a poor birch tree, which is...
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. That's an ugly ending. Folks that will end their trip to go and find indoor plumbing, or have to inconvenience themselves. What is one to do? And then what's the environmental impact on what you're leaving behind? Well, we're going to find out, guys, because I have Brandon Clark here from Buddy Boy. And a little get you up to speed here. I saw a YouTube video from a recent outdoor expo where Buddy Boy was in the featured products of things that this creator had thought was really interesting and wanted to feature. And Buddy Boy helps you, I would say, take the most responsible approach to dealing with your waste in the great outdoors. I'd say, is that accurate, Brandon, you think? Yeah,
I think that's accurate. I think I think that would be a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody, there's few things in life that everybody has to contend with, and we said before we started recording that this is a tricky conversation to have. Not everybody really necessarily thinks about it, or even worse, not everybody plans for it. But Brandon, let's walk through what Buddy Boy is. What is the Buddy Boy system, and how can it? What's the end goal? What's it here to do for us?
Well, I think of it as the great connector in a divided world. We all have one thing in common.
It's true,
and this is it. So, the Buddy Boy is a ultralight portable waste receptacle. Mm-hmm. It is odor-proof, leak-proof, waterproof. It is a container, essentially.
Yep.
A containerized system to pack out waste, human waste included, micro trash, feminine products, toilet paper,
all of it.
Really anything. I think of it as a wilderness waste bin for places that are too sensitive to be burying waste. In some ways, cat hole method is a version that is acceptable in a lot of areas, but down by the river, water sources, very sensitive, delicate areas, it's packing out your waste is the most ecological. The idea of thinking that you adding your breakfast burrito to the biome is going to be sufficient enough as a leave no trace method is just incorrect. And I think there's a part of this product is product design. The other part of this product is advocacy, which is sort of teaching the ways of the future for, I don't want to give the pandemic too much credit, but we've definitely seen an uptick of outdoors recreators in all environments,
For
national parks, lakes, rivers. And this is sort of a thoughtful solution to packing out your waste, not making it a big deal. Everything comes with a kit inside of your receptacle, comes with a kit we call the buddy system. And the buddy system includes a landing pad, bacterial cultures that begin the composting process, biodegradable bags that everything goes in, and then it all fits inside the receptacle, which has a leak-proof seal, a sub lid, and then a screw top that secures it even more, making basically a stinky opportunity smell-proof and keeping it away from your other people that are also on the trip. A lot of times we're doing these trips with people outside of ourselves, and the last thing we want to smell is each other's poop.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's kind of where it is right now with what the solutions are. Unfortunately, they get thrown in the boat, or they get put in the captain's box, or they get moved into the kitchen trash, and it just becomes this thing that you have to deal with along the way, outside of just looking for soft water or making sense of what you're doing out there.
Oh, for sure. And, the thing is like, recently I was on a trip, and I even included this, not the full situation, but I included this in one of my YouTube videos because, let's be honest, number one, videos about pooping get clicks. I don't know why. I don't care, but they do. But it's a reality we have to deal with. I was out on a river with a buddy of mine, and I had same kind of situation where I was just like, thought I was ready to go, and I'm like, man, nature is calling, dude. I'm gonna pull off here. I'm gonna take a little walk into the woods, and he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I usually document with a little celebration on the show the first poop in the woods of that year, and I'll make mention of it, like when it was. And this one was late in the year, very late in the year. Usually it's like, it's much earlier on. And I had, I included this in there. And I did, like you said, the cat hole method, where I keep a small Leatherman on my boat all the time. And I use that. I dig a little bit of a hole. I get that all set up. I handle my business. I bring biodegradable wipes so that I can keep them in a container that's dry. So like, I don't have like toilet paper breaking down and getting wet when it rains or anything like that. So I take all that and you bury everything, and everything's good. You're as responsible as possible. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, that shit, pun intended, was not ever supposed to be in that environment. So packing out is the best method possible. But let's be honest, getting people to sign on for that when you have to deal with things like potential leaking, odors, things like that, it makes it a much less desirable goal. And like when I go on these long trips and I'm out, I'm truck camping and stuff, and I've got my setup, I've got a bathroom setup that's ready to go with biodegradable bags and an additive that handles a lot of this stuff for me. But you're right, you got to throw them in your trash bags and things like that. But you carry in, carry out anytime that you're possibly able to, that's the goal. Your product really kind of checks all those boxes, and it's pretty amazing. Can you walk through sort of like the development of the product and what this exactly is specifically? Like I love the fact that there is a landing pad. I think that's a big deal, and it's got a target on it, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
It does have a target on it. And that's just to add a little humor. But the truth of the matter is was developed in necessity is the mother of invention, I guess, in this form. And I was preparing for a 12-day expedition. Yep. That had about 90 miles of hiking and 90 miles of boating in a pack raft. Oh, wow. And on the Colorado Plateau. And as we were preparing for it, you're just going through the regs and you're looking everything up. And there's the human waste carryout method is one of the regs, and which basically means you got to carry in whatever you carry carry out whatever you got to carry in. And I was calling around, kind of asking, what would we do in this situation? You know, there's going to be scenarios where we're going to have backpacks on, and then we're going to have scenarios where the backpacks are going to go inside the pack raft. And I was doing this with two other friends of mine who are also product designers. So a lot of the conversation around the fires and in the evening when we do a lot of this stuff outdoors is, you know, what the industry could need. It doesn't necessarily need, or what would be nice to have. Is it a beach chair, camp chair that's lower? Is it this, that? We're always talking about something. What could we create? And before we got into this, it was sort of like, what are we going to do for this human waste pack out method? And my buddies were kind of like, oh, we're just going to put an Amazon dry bag inside an Amazon dry bag inside an Amazon dry bag. And I was like, that's a lot of days. Like, I don't know. They're like, you're spending a lot of time thinking about this part. And I was just like, it just seemed like it was an inconvenience. I just didn't want to be out there, you know, multiple days deep in a mistake that I had made. So I basically created a version of this that in my head, it was all about being in a containerized system. Something that didn't have the squish factor, that was going to be puncture proof. There's things out there that are available, wag bags or something called a Biffy bag. They have enzymes and stuff in them, chemicals in them that sort of solidify the waste, but they're very cumbersome. They never only get used for one time. It's multiple times.
Oh, of course.
By the time you open up one of these on a fourth day is not the most inviting place to be. And I was just like, there's got to be a better way. I don't want to be carrying multiple of these bags, then stuffing them in my boat after that. So I came up with the containerized system. Then I just thought, well, why don't I make a little kit for myself? Like at that point in time, I think I was using like some sort of deodorizer and Pet Fresh. I think I mixed together in like a Johnson's & Johnson's little travel, little baby powder thing, and tried to make a couple little things to make it like a primitive version of this kit. And ultimately, my version after day 6 was far superior to what we were working with, and everybody was, you know, my two other buddies were having difficulty with where they're storing their bags, and then ultimately the odor. The odor was a major issue for my one buddy who had just, you know, spent probably $2,500 on a new pack raft, and you know, he's like, is it staining the material? He's like, this is bad. It's becoming a septic tank inside my boat. And it was kind of like, I told you guys, this is a thing. This is something that is more to it than just it's going to be fine once we get out there. And you know, you're in like I said, the cat hole method is a method that's good places in you know, places that have 4 seasons have a very nutrient rich soil that can biodegrade. When you're in the desert on the Colorado Plateau, it's arid. It takes decades to break down waste. So a lot of what is being taught is just digging a 6 to 10 inch hole and burying it, but it's sort of theater, in my opinion. And it was something that we honestly, it's the more sensitive areas you want to go see these places that are pristine. You really have to think about you're just a guest of that place any longer. You're no longer you know, part of the wilderness. You're not a deer that's eating the plants next to the area, and then, you know, their waste has a symbiotic relationship with the biome and all that stuff. So I think of us as guests of the wilderness, and you really have to leave it that way if you want to go see that or share it with the future. So that was how it pretty much started. We went on that trip. After my trip was done, I had filled my receptacle and had no issue the entirety of the trip. And there was a moment on the trip when I was probably 6 or 7 days in, and I was paddling down the river, and my buddies were about a half a mile ahead of me. I could see them up in the distance, and I just said, you know, I could just see it. I said, I'm just going to make a promise to myself. I'm going to do this until I get a red light. And if there's another product out there that's better than this product, then I'm going to be their customer. And I'm going to go until I'm basically told to stop. And I spent 1.5 years developing, designing, recreating, coming up with different methods, making it easier, partnering up with a bacterial cultures company out of Arizona that already supplies the pit toilets in the national parks system and the BLM lands with their bacteria enzymes in the RV community, and also in the river runner community in the Pacific Northwest. They use sometimes use this product. So I reached out to him and I said, this is my idea. I want to take a team sport and make it an individual sport. I don't want to groove with a whole group of people having to wait in the morning. Yeah. This can go beyond just the pack rafting. I created this thing to be ultralight and portable and very small for those needs to fit in the pack raft. Yep. But then I realized very quickly, like, this is going on all the river trips in our captain's boxes. Yep. This is going as your day tripper in case there's an accident or someone has to go before the groover gets pulled out. We traveled with a guy that had IBS. He was using one. Mm-hmm. And like, this is saving my life through the trip. He goes, you don't understand. When I'm planning a trip, I plan it differently because I'm thinking about when that moment's coming in my day. Exactly. This is something that I didn't even think about, but all of a sudden he was like pulled over on his boat. He's showing me holding up the mat like a flag. And I go, what are you doing? He goes, this thing's saving my life right now.
It's true. You know?
It goes beyond the borders of what kind of activities we do, whether it be, backpacking and, hiking in the backcountry or I've heard now that there's like canyoneers using them and climbers using them when they're doing portaledges and stuff that I'm not specifically deep in. Mm-hmm. I have a respect for, but the same in the fishing community. Yeah. Guides using them on fishing trips, handing them out to their guests right away, and they go, you're kind of in charge of your thing. It's weighs less than your cell phone. Yeah. When you get it, it's got the kits already in there. The directions are in there. I tried to make it really simple. I tried to make it thoughtful enough that it doesn't feel like you're just pooping in a bucket. You kind of have a little moment with yourself out there and have all the accoutrement to work around it. And then I also sell like what I call the second aid kit, which is like a dehydrated cotton washcloths that you mentioned that you have the biodegradable, the wipes. Yep. I sell a secondary kit that comes with like a vessel for soap, a portable bidet, mm-hmm. and dehydrated coin towels, which are like cotton towels that open up to like an 8x8 inch wipe, and that's a secondary accoutrement that you can also purchase. That is basically like the wrap it up kit, and everything once again can end up in the bag in the bucket, and at the end of the trip can be disposed properly. The vessel itself is made of HDPE plastic, which is a food grade plastic, which basically just means that it doesn't leach odors. Yep. Perfect. That's what you want. So when you are done the trip, it comes with instructions. You can do a simple rinse solution with like a little, 1 part bleach, 1 part liquid detergent, some hot water, and leave it in there, shake it up, and leave it overnight, and dump it out in the morning, and you have a bucket you can use again. And I have one on one. I think I'm on 10 or 11 trips on one bucket just to kind of see how far I can take it. But
that was actually going to be my next question.
I use it again. Sometimes I have to let it fly. Yep.
That was actually going to be my next question, was like how long, because I'll be honest, I'm looking at the website right now. And the first thing, once I discovered Buddy Boy, I was like, I got to look into this because I feel like the Jigs and Bigs audience could appreciate this knowledge and this level of care going into the environment. But the product lists, you've got, what is it, six different products in the shop right there. And we'll take, it's very simple. Yeah. One of those items is the bumper sticker, which is awesome, by the way. Great guests leave no mess. There's a refill kit for this, which is all of I'm assuming that this is the enzymes you were talking about and the targets and everything else, or the landing pads. Yep. There are 2 adventure waste kits, and I think that this is genius because I think that there's a use for many of these. Like the weekend waste kit, I think that every single steward of nature, steward of the environment, really should just have on hand, because this says it's 1.6 liters, right? It's not enormous, but it all comes bundled in a bag together in like a cinch sack all together with that refill kit. Everything goes in there all at once, but there is a larger unit, which comes in at 3.3 liters, and these are affordable, guys. I mean, the adventure waste kit for the larger one is $55. And when you think about it, over time, like if you can get 10, 20 different trips out of just one kit by itself. Or not even the kit, just the container to be able to pack up and then just get your refill kits. This is affordable and doable. I love the second aid kit. I also like the fact that you've thought ahead, and I get a kick out of this because I use these products as well. You also have a collection container for urine, which is hilarious because it's one of these. It's a Nalgene, right? Which is unbelievably like long-lasting plastic. It's unbelievable. I have had moments where I've been like on the boat and I'm like, it's just not the right setting. Maybe I'm too close to like some lakefront property or something like that. And and I'm like, I wish I had a Gatorade bottle or something, but I don't. And all I have was this. And I'm like, all right, so then that means I'm just going to buy another one. But I like the fact that like you've thought enough in advance that number one, it has the Buddy Boy logo, so you can't mistake it. It's not clear, like it's frosted. You can't see through it. And it says on there, non-potable water, do not drink. Like that is next level, just to think in advance, because you don't want to be that guy that's like, oh yeah, let me grab my water, and it's just you've been drinking out of a Nalgene all day, but now you 100% know. But like this is something that anybody could do, and I think that like realistically, for one person going out on a day-long fishing trip or a weekend, camp trip or something, like that weekend waste kit is absolutely going to get one person by 100%. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've tested both of them in different types of travel trips, fishing trips where it's with a commercial outfit and you're getting to eat pretty big, and you're still good on the weekend waste kit. And then there's also like the ultralight trips where you're just kind of eating dehydrated food, and yeah, you can get more into it than you believe. You actually don't create as much volume also as one may think off the bat in your mind.
It's true.
When you go, I'm going to fill that thing up, and then you realize you actually don't. And yeah, the weekender's a great. I mean, I have one. I keep one in my car.
Yeah.
I keep one because I also have pets, and sometimes you're on a drive and you're with the dog, and you go, the dog needs to we'd go probably, and you pull over and there's nowhere to really deal with that. And instead of having the bag just sitting in the trunk of the car, it's sort of like, it's just a place that's smell proof, odor proof, and yeah, I keep them. I keep an extra one in my captain's bag for guests when I'm on the raft. Yeah, they've taken the weekend waste kits. Don't quote me, but I think it's been used on a 5 or 6 day. With one of my buddies in the Grand Canyon, because he just wanted one so light and so small for his ultralight stuff. So ultimately, he's eating a lot less than most people are on a big trip. But yeah, he ended up using a weekend waste kit. We didn't think it would work for him, but it ended up working fine for him. And during our testing of all the sizes, it just made sense for us to have sort of a 5-day longer week. Longer trip, a bucket, and then having the weekend kit for anybody that's just going quick, or like I said, maybe when you're just not prepared.
Yeah,
like perhaps you do have a groover and you're in a group setting. However, now it's camps in 8 miles and you're at a 9. You know what I mean? And it's time to go. So it's a good place for emergencies. Like I also mentioned before, I do a lot of this traveling with wives, going out in the backcountry, and it seems like it's also become a nice place with the kits. You get double the amount of bags in your kit than you need. So those bags can also just end up becoming trash, just for refuse, whatever, trash, micro trash, feminine products, stuff like that. So like it ends up being, you can kind of just deal with your own business, and it says it right on the label, mind your business. It's just yours to deal with. You kind of have the ability to utilize it for any of those private moments and just not have to worry. It's like, I think of it as like you get the Colgate smile after you brush your teeth with Colgate. There's also a Buddy Boy smile. Sure. Not having to think about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You just, that segment of our trip planning is no longer, it's no longer a big deal. It's more like, do we have the refills? Do we got the Buddy Boys? We got everything. Now we're not thinking like, okay, who's carrying this, and what are we going to do with that? And who's going to put the 1 5-gallon bucket in the in the boat, with the seat on it, and it just
the luggable loo. Yeah,
just,
everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
But
totally.
Who wants to lug that around?
Somebody's got to carry it. And ultimately, like in group situations, we've had to make lists of who's next. This trip, you're next. It already says it on the list because nobody wants to, or everyone's figuring out ways that, I don't know, I'm actually carrying hand wash instead, or I'm carrying, I got lunch on this boat, or what, and you're like, oh, someone's got to carry, and it ends up being, whoever the polite person is, basically. But
that's exactly it. And
this kind of gets around it.
I'll tell you, I think that there are some people who just have this adverse reaction to the idea of having to use the facilities in the woods, in nature. And I mean, I understand that. Like, it was only when I really got really into like taking these trips for multiple days, especially when I was camping, when now it was like, or I was out in the kayak. I can remember specifically being like, oh man, now I got to go all the way. And you're talking about when I was in my kayak, it was a pedal kayak, but still I got to pedal all the way back to the ramp to get to use those facilities where they are. And then sometimes, let's be honest, the facilities at the boat launch are deplorable. Like, they're terrible. And you've got to kind of cope with it. Well, at least now you can kind of handle your own business. You know what I'm saying? And you can get a little bit creative and be discreet. And it's nice that you don't have like a giant 5-gallon bucket and you make a really good point about the sheer amount of waste. People think about this. They're like, I'm going to fill that in one session. And you're like, it was amazing when I'll never forget the first camping trip. I was up at Moosehead Lake in this beautiful environment. Now, there was a pit toilet in this spot. This was dispersed camping. We drove 6 miles of logging roads to get down to this lake, but there's enough people that camp down here where there was a pit toilet constructed. And I'm like, I got this new thing. I'm gonna try this. We'll see how it works. And it was awesome. But I set it all up, and I'm like, this would be a giant pain in the ass to lug around. It really would. But I was amazed. I was like, I'm going to go through a box of these bags. I think we camped for 4 nights. And I'm like, I'm going to need to bring a second box. No way. And we did. We packed out, and it sucked because I packed all my stuff in a kitchen trash bag, tied it all off, packed it again in another kitchen trash bag, and it rode home in my kayak. In the trailer, you know what I mean? This having a container where it's absolutely like odor proof and leak proof gives a huge, I guess, sigh of relief. So that, a second sigh of relief, you might say. Because then you're like, now I don't have to worry about this. Yeah, it really is. It's a really cool product, man. Are you guys in any retailers right now, or are there any plans to put this into some retail markets so people can see it, or are you doing stuff and selling directly from the website only?
We sell directly from the website for sure, and we are just beginning to make our way into small shops. We're heading to a small shop in Vancouver, Washington next week. We are currently in a shop in St. George, Utah called Desert Rat, which is, that environment that is totally necessary for these types of things. Places where, it's too rocky to actually dig a cat hole, or like I said before, it's just too arid for breakdown. Also just places that are highly populated with, places like the John Muir Trail and places that like the Deschutes River, where there's just a lot of people seeing these areas. And in order for those places to just remain pristine, it's just a necessary thing to consider. So a lot of times, like I said, people are under the impression that you can just bury it and it becomes, a flower or something. But the true reality is, you've been to that one level spot where everybody wants to camp. And then there's like what I heard someone call toilet paper flowers all over the place from, the animals smell it as soon as it gets buried. So they dig it up, and it just contaminates. It contaminates sort of the entire ecological system of the area, just due to it's not supposed to be there. So it does, the critters find it, and that's kind of the aftermath. And you're left, sort of thinking that you did the right thing, And that's the unfortunate part is that you were trying.
Yeah. And that was
you
it.
Actually,
That's
you were trying.
It's crazy.
And it just, so that's the other part. And I appreciate you having me on, because it's sort of like there's different communities. Mm-hmm. We all get our information through different blogs and different people, books, things of just the way, whatever the way is. And we kind of learn from either head guides or people that are taught us how to, be out there and recreate in nature correctly. And some of the information is no longer viable for the amount of people recreating. If you're in Alaska, you just got dropped off in a bush plane, and you're not in permafrost, then go ahead and dig a hole.
Sure.
Do your thing. There's certain places where this isn't for every single environment. Yeah. And I understand that. But in the most sensitive of areas, and rivers and lakes, water systems 100% fit into that range. These are just places that you don't want to contaminate and definitely not contaminate when you're thinking you're doing the right thing. And that's kind of the backwards thinking of some of it. But, it is difficult right now. If you walked into a shop, you could buy wag bags. You could buy, there's, a little shovel to do a cat hole, but there's not really a containerized system that just keeps that thought process. It's almost like you don't have to think about it anymore. It's a one thought process, and you have it.
That's the best part.
Yeah, and that's kind of how to get it out. So you can find us online, and we're going to slowly just grow into small shops that would find it necessary. Core shops that have actual people shopping there that are actually doing the things that we're going out to do, and not mostly big box stores, but places where, maybe you're getting your flies, or river shops and
real outfitters,
outdoor stores that are places that would actually, that we've already passed the point of entry. We already understand this is something that we're going to do, and so that we're not completely educating. But then, the other side of this is next spring, we're going to go out on a little buddy boy tour and kind of go to stores and set up tents out front and, kind of just explain and sort of do demos and sort of just show the people. I'd like to get involved with youth groups and people that are out there doing stuff, already have programs that are moving in the direction of just, continually teaching the youth how to do it. Because, if I were being taught this stuff at a younger age, it would just come second nature. So 100%. That's sort of, like I said before, it's like there's a product design element, and I think we've solved that really well.
For sure.
And then there's an advocacy element of just sort of like, teaching people that there's a tool for what they need it for.
I will. When I first discovered the Buddy Boy system, it reminded me of a story that my previous co-host, Sean the Fisherman, who is, I would say, a rather accomplished tournament angler. He shared a story one time, and I forget what the lake was, and it's actually probably better that I forgot what the lake was. But he was at a tournament with probably like 20 different anglers getting ready, getting the rigs together and everything. And one of these guys who is a regular listener of the show, I'm not going to mention him by name, but he knows who he is. He's like, oh, man, he's like, there's no freaking porta-john here. What am I going to do? And he goes, he's like, there's like a little boathouse or something in the back over there. So apparently everybody else in the free world had that idea, because the story he told when he got back, he was like, it was like a poop war zone back there. He was just like, it's just piles and like used leaves. He goes, there was the sock, like all kinds of just left there. And he's like, this is ridiculous. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because if you're out in the outdoors, whatever that might look like for you, but for us, it's fishing. Maybe it's just recreating and you're going out just to try and catch it. Maybe you're chasing a trophy. Maybe you're in a tournament kind of situation. Especially for those tournament anglers, you're talking about being on the water for 8 hours. You put money on the line to fish that event, and you've got to catch the best 3 or the best 5 of an entire day. Every moment that you are not actively fishing or on fish is essentially potentially costing you money, really, at the end of the day. If you're having to go all the way back to the ramp to use a porta-john to get back onto the water, you're spending that much more time than if you could find a secluded area and use one of these systems and get right back out on the water. So, like, to the Jigs and Bigs listener, especially the tournament angler, this is a really good idea. You know, and with it being so compact, no matter how small your kayak, I'm telling you, you guys, you can find room for a 1.6 liter container. You absolutely can. And, you know, it's not even an issue of weight. It's lightweight plastic. All the resources are built in there. And, you know, I mean, when you think about it, like the additional weight that you're putting into the container,
it was in you before.
So you can't count that weight. You can't count that weight. It's just a good idea. I see this being a home run for a lot of folks. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the tournament trails, you know, members were just like, oh yeah, you know, that might actually be a good avenue for you, Brandon. Now that I think about it, partner up with like the kayak fishing tournament trails and the fishing tournaments, and just like, oh, do a demo with them, and, you know, work out some sponsorship stuff, because I think that there is an audience where people would be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Shit, if you plow snow in the winter, those are long days. If you want to stop at a Dunkin' Donuts or something, you know what I'm saying? Like, this way you can utilize a resource like Buddy Boy, you know, when nature calls. It's a good thing. I think you're doing some awesome stuff, man. I think that the not just the outdoor community, of course the outdoor community, but even more than that would definitely do themselves a favor to loosen up about having to handle business in the bush, but, you know, also be responsible about how they're taking care of it. And you know, like, we have hand sanitizer all over the place these days. Like, clean up your business, wash your damn hands. Done deal.
Absolutely. And to even the naysayer who's hell bent on, you know, I carry a shovel on my boat and that's what I do. You still have to take away the toilet paper in most cases.
Yeah.
At least that's what's required. So I think of it even for the guy who goes, you know what, I'm not carrying it. You go, no, my environment doesn't need this. I can actually bury it. Well, you still got to take away the paper. So
yeah,
in some sense, and that's why I think of it as a wilderness waste bin. It's at some sense, then put the paper in the thing. You know what I mean? It's a matter of just getting it away. And ultimately there's a selfishness to it, because truly, why would you do this? Why would you want to keep it clean? Because ultimately what happens is the parks, the agencies, they go around and they go, hey, look at all the waste that's been around here, or people that are, you know, same as people that build fires in places where you're not supposed to burn.
Yep.
And they see it and they have to take it down. They make a note of it. It becomes a misuse of the area. They make notes. They go, we've had this many, you know, people treating this place wrong. We have this many people coming in here a season, and eventually it gets limited with, let's do a permit, and the permit starts with that permit, and then it goes to a lottery system.
Yep.
And it only slowly limits your access to places that you go, when I was a kid, we used to walk in here.
Exactly.
And now you're going on rec.gov, hoping at 8 a.m. that you get the lottery for the thing that you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And a lot of that has to do with misuse. So it's you know, it's ultimately in your benefit to take it out. And it's, you know, for some of us that have pets and stuff, you're carrying around poop a couple times a day when you walk in your dog. And, you know, if you live in an environment with, you know, neighbors and things like this, it's something that you just already are doing. It's a thing that's going to be happening regardless every single day. So, you know, coming up with a way to manage it is, for me, just made the whole situation easier, and it took that part off of my mind. Yep. I know that the areas that I'm using I'm taking the best care possible, so I can come back the next season or bring kids to there
for sure
in the future, and I don't have to worry about what am I going to actually do, because it's kind of, that part's been sort of taken care of for you.
No, that's awesome, man. No, Brandon, I think you're onto something really great. I think you probably can look forward to some significant success, because we live in a world right now where you're absolutely right. There are people every day that are out walking their dogs, that are picking up their poop, and all that stuff. It's like, it's really kind of the same thing. And it's just being responsible. And when you are faced with the reality that not doing this could ultimately impact the ability to access some of these outdoor resources, it puts it into a different light where you're like, well, last thing I want to do is lose the availability to go and enjoy my time and recreate in the woods. It's a no-brainer. Do everybody a favor. Let them know where they can find out more information about the Buddy Boy system. If they're interested in it, where they can make a purchase, all that stuff. If you have anything coming down the pipe that you want to announce, this is a great opportunity to do it. Go ahead and promote yourself a little bit.
So you can find us on our website at thebuddyboy.com. Everything can be found on there. We have just started sponsoring, events and international film festivals for pack rafting, and we just got done sponsoring an event for the American Pack Rafting Association this week in the Payette River up in Idaho. Mm-hmm. Keep our Instagram is Buddy Boy USA, and that will be where you can find anything that we're getting into, any new things that we're going to be releasing. And all our products are on our website. Like I said, there's a couple of shops selling, and there'll be some more in the future. That's awesome. And I appreciate you having me on the show and taking the time to talk shit.
Oh, absolutely. I like that. Absolutely. One quick question before we wrap up. Where did the name Buddy Boy come from?
Buddy Boy is it's actually a nickname that my father would refer to me as, and he was sort of he was a hunter, duck hunter, deer hunter. He grew up on the East Coast in the intercoastal waterways of southern New Jersey, and I spent most of my mornings, wintertime, out on the creeks, how he would say, and that was just what I referred to as. So I was just thinking, like, he brought me on all these adventures, and this is sort of your new friend to be bringing on your adventures. So your Buddy Boy is your friend to nature, your guest of the wild.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Excellent. Brandon, this is absolutely fantastic, dude. I appreciate it. We're going to go and share those links and everything in the description of this show. It'll drop next Tuesday. So but we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for being part of the show.
I really, really appreciate you including me. Seriously, it's a really cool chat, and getting involved in other entities outside of my own practices. Mm-hmm. I feel like the fishing community has a lot to utilize in this space, and are a big part of the impact in our areas. So I think them towing the line is a great thing for all of us.
Absolutely, dude. Awesome. Well, you guys sit tight, because we're going to be back with more Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this.
Hi there. Welcome to the Live Well, where we crack open a ramp beer and attempt to answer all of your burning questions.
Alrighty, guys, it is Live Well time. We got stuff we got to talk about here, guys. So let's break into the Live Well. Let's talk about the details here. What is the Live Well all about? Well, if you're just listening to the show right here, the Live Well is where we take questions that come in either via voice message or text to the Jigs and Bigs hotline from our listeners. And if you want to submit your questions or anything like that for the Live Well, you can do so. Just call us or text us at 413-324-8519. Put that number in your phone right now as the Jigs and Bigs hotline, 413-324-8519. I say that because sometimes these ideas and these questions pop up randomly. Like maybe you're you're out fishing and you're like, huh. Or maybe you're on the drive home from work and you're like, oh yeah, I never thought about this. I'd like to ask this question. Well, the live well is that's what it's there for. So go ahead, you can text us, you can call us, and we'll go back and take all of that information. We're starting things off. One of our regular callers that's in here often, one of our jig heads is Eli. And Eli guest hosted last week with us. And by the way, Eli, I do want to say you did an amazing job last week on the show. I was talking with Joe and he's like, yeah, I listened to the show, man. He's like, it came out really good. And I was like, I think Eli did great. So excellent job, dude. Great work. But let's get into his first call. What's Eli got to say here?
Hey guys, Eli again. So I know it's become more common for hook companies to sell like a pre-put together box of hooks and stuff like that. So if you were to put together your own ultimate tournament tackle box, what are your top 5, top 10 hooks? And then what size hooks would you use? Weights? What size weights, and then anything else you would like, bobber stops or anything else like that you would recommend. So what is your ultimate terminal tackle box look like, and what's in it, what sizes, even off the wall stuff, maybe like thinking of like, okay, hooks, weights, bobber stops, stuff like that. Is there anything else that you put on it that might be somebody, I don't know, maybe some juice that nobody thinks about? Have a great day. Bye.
That's a tough one to answer, because I think that, like, on the one hand, you have like the OCD box from BKK, and I'm guessing that's probably the box, Eli, where you were thinking about or what you were considering when you were like, some of these companies putting this together. BKK just puts it all in there, and also, to be perfectly honest, that's kind of what you would have to do if you're talking hooks, and you want to give the selection. Like, you're thinking about how this is going to be most versatile, but the BKK box is like, that's at a premium. You know what I mean? That's no joke. That's a big investment right there. And the reality of it is, I think at the end of the day, is that there is a certain number of those hooks that you're going to use never or last. You know what I mean? Like, you'll be like, oh, I'm out of these. I guess I have to use a size smaller, or I have to use a size larger, or whatever it might be. So I think that there's always going to be one of those situations where that's the case. And I'm going to go so far as to say that I think that for your typical angler, like, that, whatever that hook or style of hook is going to change for everybody. It's going to be different because we're fishing different bodies of water. We have different confidence levels, things like that. But also on the other hand, and I got into these very, very early. Eli says right here, he goes, I was also making a smaller box for the kayak. So this is really good. Okay. So a smaller box for the kayak. Now, when I first started getting into fishing, I was like, okay, I need hooks, I need weights, I need this, I need that. And I was going on Amazon and buying like a lot of, in fact, I think there was a company, I want to say it was called like Runkle. RUNCL, and they made like a kit that was like a bunch of different terminal tackle primarily. You know, in fact, one of these boxes was really, really small, like really small. It was a sandwich style box that would collapse, and inside there were different sized compartments, and each one had a lid. It wasn't anything special, but I use this thing for bank fishing all the time, and I went insane trying to customize it. I really did. So what I would do is this. This was at a time where, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna tailor this more to the bank angler and the novice angler. Somebody who's going out there with like maybe 2 rods. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about like a 7-foot medium fast spinning rod and like a 7-foot medium heavy bait caster. Somebody who's going out with those. What I would tell those for terminal tackle to be prepared with is, I would say, go every other size with your hooks. Okay. And the reason why I say that is like this. We've talked about EWG hooks at length over here. And you have to make a decision. You know, are you using like really small finessey presentations like the tiny child rig or something like that, where you would use a 1/0 EWG, or should you start maybe a little bit larger with a 2/0? And I say that because if you're going to start with a 2, you just want to go 2/4, 2/0, 4/0. If you really think you're going to go that small, go 1/0, 3/0, 5/0. Because this gives you a nice sort of, now if you had to choose one, choose the 3. Go for the average. So when it comes to hooks, and I would say your EWG hook is the one, because not everybody's going to need a flipping hook for that heavy cover. I have some flipping hooks. I prefer on some Texas rigs to use a flipping hook because it's super stout. But I find for most applications, a typical EWG is definitely going to do the job for the most part. Like if I'm Texas rigging like a pit boss, it's like a creature bait like that. Yeah, that's generally going to do the job. If I'm throwing something into like really, really heavy cover, then I would say I would fool around with that. As for weights, that's also going to depend on the angler. I would say a good place to start is going in that 1/8 size to 1/4 size to like 3/8, maybe a 1/2 ounce instead of the 3/8. But this way you kind of have like a 3-step program. You know what I mean? You've got something that's like, okay, this is a little bit finessey. I'm going to be able to throw it on my spinning combo. It's not going to be super light where it's going to be awkward and ridiculous. But you've also got something that's like heavy enough, especially for bank fishing. Like, you don't need to have that 1/2 ounce to get it down or punch through stuff necessarily. A 3/8 weight is probably going to do you for most situations. I would say look into like, hold on. Eli says 3. Are you saying a 3/0 EWG is huge? A 3/0 EWG is right in the middle of the line. It's right in the middle. So if you had to have one, it's not the smallest and it's not the largest. I would say that as for like anything else, ball head jigs are super handy to have. And a ball head jig in like a 1/8 ounce size is super, super handy. Oh, Eli. I didn't expect that from you. Eli says he was making a dick joke, ladies and gentlemen. I would say realistically, a ball head jig is going to come in handy because you can use it a ton. Now, you might want to make the argument that maybe you look at some kind of a weedless ball head jig, something like that, or even an EWG, something like that, where you're not as likely to get hooked up. But I'll tell you what, using open hooks, there is a learning curve for using open hooks. You're running a risk, but if you're careful, you're all right. Now, fishing like from the bank, that's one thing. It's difficult. Once you're in a kayak, if you get hung up, you're more likely going to be able to free that up because you'll be able to position around it and get it back. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. I mean, you're not throwing baits if you're not losing baits. I have always kind of said that. I would say overall that having something, think about what you're taking and then think about what you actually use. Like my terminal tackle box, I have a big terminal tackle box and I have a small terminal tackle box. My big box that I carry has loads of stuff in there, and I find that it's got the more specialty shit that I don't use all the time. So like in my terminal box, I'm using Ned heads, swim bait heads. I'm using, because I don't keep that shit in my jig box. I keep it in my terminal tackle box. So like ball head jigs, I'll throw. It's got all my drop shot stuff in there. My drop shot stuff is generally like 2 different style of hooks that go in one compartment and weights that go up to as high as a 1/4 ounce. That's it. Just a handful of them too. Nothing crazy. As for hooks, like I think for the most part, you gotta have an EWG in there. I think you gotta have a wacky hook or some type of a finesse hook, because then that like that finesse style hook will allow you to wacky rig some stuff. It'll allow you to drop shot as well. I think that you can make yourself crazy building a terminal tackle box, but I would say, generally speaking, whatever the hook styles are that you like, if you're doing this on your own, don't get every single size, get every other, so that when you're going up from one size to the next, there's a reason for it. You know, if you're gonna buy X amount numbers of hooks, I would say look into having a wide variety and as many of them as you can. You know, while it is nice if you're like, oh, I'm all out of 2/0, well, it gives you the option to say, is a 3/0 better suited for this, or is a 1/0 better suited for this? So like having those in between gaps are great, but a good place to start is just shoot right down the middle. You know, shoot right down the middle. You know, as far as your weights, consider what you're fishing. There's a lot of this depends on the situation. I hate to say it, it really, really does. I would personally, Eli, I would say, especially if it's a beginning angler, I would purchase something pre-made. I would, because you're gonna find what you utilize, what you need, and what you don't. You know. There's something going on in the comments over here. I gotta jump in here. John says, all in the truck at all times. I never know what's gonna come up. I alternate rods in and out depending on what I'm after. And John, that's how I roll. I take all of my gear pretty much out with me, so I have the option. Even if I'm out on the boat and I'm like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting all these pads and I didn't bring my frog rod, I will go back and get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. Sometimes I make the call and I'm like, I don't want to necessarily bring. Now, if I'm in my boat, I'm way more likely to just throw everything in and then go for it. Dave Shade goes, I wouldn't expect anything less from you, John. I have a 3,600 tray for each species, then pull out what I'm going to need for the upcoming trip and put a 3,500 size tray together with some lures. Like a day box, right, Dave? I do the same thing. But a terminal box is always really handy to have if you need to. John Hagan says, overkill, no such thing. And Ian says, he goes, I have a bag for each species that I'm targeting, bass and trout, but I keep my carp and catfish gear together. Yeah, fair. I could definitely see that. The only species-specific box that I have is I have a trout box. Everything else just goes into my other stuff. And when I say I have a trout box, like I have like some trout spoons, I have some trout magnets, and I have a wide variety of rooster tail inline spinners, of a wide variety, different blade colors, different patterns, different dressed trebles, like you name it. And I'm one of those guys that's like willing to play that game. In fact, I'm so into it that I am starting to realize the benefit of having a snap swivel on the end of your line for changing out those baits, because sometimes it gets down to that color and you got to play that game and cover water, and especially throwing them on BFS, like I'm able to do so super efficiently, which is really nice. So I would say, like, yeah, if you're going to build a tackle box, like sometimes buying one of those pre-owned ones is the way to go. And even if the stuff isn't great, sometimes the box is really good and it's worth just getting it for the box. Like that BKK box, if you buy it empty and you buy the individual then you have their storage system and you can customize it for whatever hooks you want. You know, when it comes to, you know, your weights and everything, like I know NACO makes a weight box that is all exclusively NACO tungsten. Weights are a little bit different. Like sometimes you can make some allowances with substituting weights, but like when you're doing it all in one, like all together, man, it's just like some people, like I consider things like ball head jigs and swim bait heads, I consider that terminal tackle. You know, I just do. There are some folks who are like, nope, they're jigs. They're different. They go in other things. It is what it is. Hey, it's fine. I have, you know, that's why I call my jig box shit with skirts, because that's pretty much what it gets down to. Let's go ahead. We'll jump into Brandon's question here. I apologize, Eli, if that didn't really answer your question. It's really kind of difficult to to get that one straightened out. So let's take a look at what Brandon has to say here.
Hey, Bobby. And who the fuck is Joe Brown? YP the God here, a.k.a. Brandon White, something for the live well. So when fishing a river, right, and it's chocolate milk, understand use dark lures, but in chocolate milk water, will they still go to shade, or will they stay, since it's chocolate milk, or will they be in pretty much where the fish will be? Where would they hide and stay in water? Will they look for clear water or slightly muddy water or whatever? Thank you. Tight line.
That's an interesting question. Because chocolate milk water is like, I mean, you're talking zero visibility at that point for the most part. You're talking about where like that fish is hitting the surface of the water and you're like, oh, I can see it like that. So I like to keep in mind, think of water that's that dirty and that low visibility. That water is cover. The sunlight's only going to penetrate so far into it. So like if we're talking summertime stuff, like if it's dirty water, they're not getting the same sun exposure that they normally would get. With that dirty water as well, there's a little, like even all throughout the year, there's a little level of confidence where they might feel a little bit more protected by that dirty water and might venture further out. I do feel that water temp and oxygen are going to come into play. So you're probably still going to find them around weeds, around grass. They're going to want to be where they can breathe the best. And I think you're also going to find them around the bait. Now, they might be a little scattered all over the place. And I will say, you mentioned in there, Brandon, that dark lures work. Dark lures do work. Bright lures work as well. And in those kind of conditions, it's up to you in that moment what you think is going to be the best and most effective. I tend to lean toward dark lures simply because it's a little bit more of like a shadow. But the big thing in those situations when it's water that's that muddy, vibration is huge. So throwing like a spinnerbait, like if you go back to that list of stuff that we covered last week regarding the most obnoxious baits, like the ones that vibrate the most and make the most sort of commotion in the water, your bladed jigs, your rattle traps, things like that, that's going to help big time right there as far as helping these fish, because you got to think about it. Their visibility there is also being hindered. So if there were a threat right in front of them, they don't necessarily even know that it's there. They won't be able to see it. So they're sort of depending on that lateral line to give them more information. So what they're going to do is, if you have, a bladed jig that you're ripping around and they can hone in on that and they're feeding, they have that to help them locate where that is. They have that lateral line for that. So I would say go ahead and do that. You can definitely look more shallow, I think, in muddy water situations too. They will, like we said earlier, like they're going to come up to feed early during the day and at night. Well, without that light penetration up there, you might find them a little bit more shallow than you would normally, especially if there are, if you can find some shallow areas with like shallow weeds where you've got well oxygenated water. There's good stuff there. Here we go. John Higgins chimes in. He goes, most fish will move closer to the bank also because chocolate milk water is usually accompanied by higher and swifter water. Yeah, that's a good point too. It's odd. You asked in there, will fish go and look for clear water? I have a hard time answering that question just because I don't have a lot of that real dirty water around here. So I struggle a lot in those conditions. I tend to rely on a lot of presentations that have more vibration than anything else. So I'm going to throw those swim baits that have the most kick. I'm going to throw that bladed jig in that stuff that's real dirty where the visibility is rough. I'm going to throw that thing that's really loud and rattles. Something like that. I'm going to rely a lot on that type of stuff. I remember when I was with Caleb on Chickamauga, we had a stupid thunderstorm roll through the night before we fished, and we had mud lines that were showing up like I had never seen before, where it was like you had like Yoo-hoo on one side and then a line that went to like watered down Yoo-hoo. I don't really know, but it was like a color difference. Like you could see the line, and I don't know if it was where the current was going or what was happening, but things champed. Here we go. John says it right here. He goes, the mud line where clear water and chocolate mix gives predators an ambush point. And that's what Caleb was basically telling us. He's like, if we can find that water, we can find that clear water, it gives us a little bit of an indication of where there's going to be some fish, and which makes a ton of sense. Eli says chocolate milk can sometimes make them more predictable because they're going to cling to cover more. Yeah, it all depends, and I think that especially you're going to find them in the weeds, but using those vibrating baits that are going to get their attention, I think is going to help you a lot. And sometimes keep in mind that chocolate milk can be cover in some ways, especially in a situation where you're dealing with like sunlight. Let's go ahead. We'll chime in with this one. I think Eli mentions fishing line in this one here. Let's take a listen to this one, Eli.
Hey guys, it's Eli. Just picked up some new line for reel and was thinking about this question. If you were to talk to somebody that's newer, not brand new, but newer to bass fishing, what line sizes and types of line would you say they absolutely have to have? And I know this really depends on kind of what rods they have, but if you didn't know the rods that they have and you were to put together maybe the top 5 different sizes of lines and then also types of lines that you think somebody has to have, what do you think that would be? Have a good day. Bye, guys.
That's a tough one because we have to make the assumption that they have 5 different combos. To do top 5. Somebody who's new to fishing, but not brand new. So maybe they have 3 or 4, maybe they have 5 combos they're utilizing. I'm going to ask, the first question I'm going to ask so what are these combos? What are the ratings of the we're talking about the power and the action of the rods. We're talking about the reels. What are you using for reels? Even more importantly, would be what are the techniques that you're generally throwing on these combos? But I think probably the most important thing that's often overlooked is like what types of bodies of water are you fishing? And I ask that because I would probably for the versatility, let's say somebody's using less and they're like, oh, I love topwater. My buddy Paul, I love topwater. Topwater's everything, blah, 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 blah. I would tell him, if he or somebody who had that's their interest, I would tell them straight up that you need to make a decision on, let's say they have one bait caster. Okay. They have one bait caster. They have one spinning combo, but they are all about throwing like good size conventional topwaters, choppos. Okay. Whatever it might be. I would explain to them that they have a choice to make. Are they fishing around areas that have lots of wood, right? And what's the water clarity where they're at? And the reason why I say that is this. When it comes to topwater, there are 2 lines that work better for topwater than fluorocarbon, and they're monofilament and braid. Now, if you're fishing around a lot of wood structure or a lot of wood cover, I would be a little bit concerned with telling somebody to go braid to fluoro. My gut says go braid to fluoro for the versatility. You can always tie a leader on, you know what I mean, and be good. And I have some confidence with that. But, if you're fishing around wood and you're like, I'm going to flip this jig into this wood because that's the one bait casting combo that you have, I'm going to straight up tell you that you want the fastest and most stiff jig rod you can get your hands on. And you want to throw mono if you love to throw topwater on that rig. If you have to do that and you can't dedicate a combo to it, I would say I would genuinely say you want to throw mono at whatever pound test, you're comfortable with. I would say anywhere from 10 If you're going to throw like jigs and shit on it, I would throw anywhere between 12 to 20 pounds, something like that. But I'm throwing around, these are like niche situations. Now, Eli says in here, he goes, yes, they do. It depends on the situation, I know. And that's what makes this such a difficult question. He goes, we're going to call it one medium spinning rod, one medium light spinning rod, one medium bait caster, one medium heavy bait caster, and one heavy bait caster, all fast action. All right, so I'm going to assume that heavy bait caster, you are primarily going to be frogging and throwing. Let's see. You're probably frogging, punching, and maybe like really heavy, like grass, like shit like that. There on that combo there, I'm going to say, depending on where you are in the country and the level of vegetation you've got to deal with on that combo, that's what you want to throw your braid on. And it's going to go, depending on where you are, I'm going to say between as light as 30-pound test, if that's your deal, and as heavy as 65. I don't think you need to go any higher than 65-pound braid. I know that there are some people who go crazy, and I'm like, I get it. Like if you live where you have weeds that are so thick where you're pulling out 10 pounds of fish and 40 pounds of weeds, I get it, but it depends on where you are in the country, and that's going to vary. You're also going to buy more fishing line. I hate to say this, guys. Fishing line is one of those things where you're going to be buying and changing spools constantly throughout your life fishing. I mean, there are people who have a system, but they have a variety of things that they have. You're going to be changing things up. And if you're going, especially if you're going on a trip, like if you're a guy like me that's in the Northeast and I'm going to Florida, I'm going to Louisiana, and I'm like, yeah, I'm bringing a frog combo with me. It's probably going to get re-spooled. Like 50 would probably do it. And 50's way overkill up here where I am. But I might want to throw 65 on there just to be safe. So that we'll knock that one. And also on that heavy bait caster, I would say you're probably able to throw like that's actually a similar combo that I throw like large like buzz baits, conventional buzz baits, half ouncers and shit like that. I would throw that on that. And I would usually have that paired with a really fast reel, and that's the reason why. On the medium heavy bait caster, on that one, I'm going to assume that you're probably going to be throwing a lot more of your bottom baits, your jigs, your heavy shaky heads, heavy Texas rigs, things like that. This is going to be your 4-wheel drive. So you're throwing this into the heavy cover. You've got a lay down. You're going to pick it apart with this and cast, regardless what the bait is, but I'm talking in that like 3/8 to like 3/4 ounce weight for a lure for the most part. Here, I'm going to tell you straight up, this one you want to throw, I would say a minimum 17 pound, 20. If you're going to go 17, you might as well do 20. 20 pound fluoro is just, it's my sweet spot. On those types of things, I say 20 pound fluorocarbon, because when you're throwing a jig, having that line and I used to fool around with 17. Dude, 17 is so heavy, you might as well get the 20. Like, that's just, and I think that's something I picked up from Tackle Talk a long time ago. I think it is. So that on your medium heavy, I would say go ahead and do that. On your medium bait caster, now on something like that, I think you're probably going to be throwing more like your paddle tail swim baits, your underspins. You're probably going to throw like some spinner baits on that, more of like your moving presentations for the most part. And on this, you're going to throw fluorocarbon still, but you're going to downsize that a little bit because you won't necessarily need the heavy cover aspect of it. So I would say anywhere from 12 to 15 pound on that would probably suit you. And again, this is going to depend on the angler and the area where they are. Like, how heavy does that need to be? In fact, on that puppy, you might want to go braid to fluoro. But I would throw, I would say 12 to 20 pound fluoro. or 12 to 15 pound fluoro on that would do it. Probably go as light as 10, depending on the water that you're fishing, to be totally honest. On a medium light spinning rod, super easy. 10 pound braid to I would say a 6 a 4 to 8 pound leader, depending on where you're fishing. This is your drop shot. This is your you could throw a Ned rig on this setup. You could also throw really light finesse moving baits, like a paddle tail on a jig head. That works great for. And then on your medium spinning rod, this one, I would say, honestly, you probably could get away with the same line. The leader line on this one, medium spinning rod, I would usually run a little bit heavier, like an 8 pound. That's what I do on mine. And do I have 20 pound braid? I think I have 20 pound braid on mine, but that was just because it was, again, what I had, something like that. But that's just me. And it depends a lot on where you are. Now, again, like I would say that, you could for sure, and it would be a good idea on that medium rod. I said you use it for moving baits. If you're using it for fast action, you might want to throw mono on that. And I say that for this reason. That mono stretch is going to assist you in hooking up with that rod having such a fast action. It's going to give a little bit of a delay before that bait gets ripped away from a fish. Even throwing fluoro, there's going to be a little bit of stretch there, but not like there is with monofilament. What do we got here? What's John saying? John says, structure can make you pay dearly if your line choice is wrong. Cannot speak for bass guys so much, but in my area of expertise, line matters for different scenarios and conditions. John, I want to say that in the catfish and carp world, a lot of times mono plays a role simply because of the stretch factor versus folks that are using braid. Because I think that with braid, with there being cover on the bottom or structure on the bottom, you get, nicks in your braid and it's a little bit less forgiving, if I'm not mistaken. John says, I'm going to be respooling all of my cat rods for the 3rd time this year, later this week. Shit. Dude, that's part of it. You know what I mean? It is. And there's a million factors. Maybe not a million factors, but there's a large amount of factors that go into selecting line. And a lot of that is up to the angler and how they fish, where they fish, and some of the decisions that they decide to make. There are plenty of folks that use a variety of different technique-specific lines based on what it is. And sometimes, when you listen to content from these folks that have tons of experience on the water and you hear some of the stuff that they're using and you're like, really? Oh, you use that line? And it might go against everything else that you've thought. But when they explain it, you're like, oh shit. I think recently, I recently heard like a good group of people that were like, oh, on my jerk baits, I make sure to use monofilament. And I'm like, no shit. I always throw my jerks with fluoro. I do. I throw them all with fluoro. But it's again, your results may vary. It's a choice that you have to make, and nobody can really tell you what's right or what's wrong, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to how you fish. One person might swing on a fish that's using monofilament or is using braid, and they hook up constantly. It's not a problem. Other folks might have some difficulty where they're ripping baits away from fish's mouths. John says, I hate braid myself. I run mono mainline and heavy fluoro leaders. That's fair. I think that braid has its place, but like many things in fishing, I don't think that there's a hard and fast answer in this situation for everybody and every body of water. I think things are going to change and there's wiggle room. The ability of that angler, I think, is going to come into play. I like on my bait runner setup, I have 50 pound braid on that, but I have a mono leader that's like, Jesus Christ, that's a 12-foot rod. It's at least two rod lengths. You know what I'm saying? Because I want a little bit more stretch. That is also a really moderate rod. Like, it's not the fastest thing ever because it's a bait runner, I say that coming from like someone who has an inventory of bass rods where the actions are infinitely more sensitive and it's just a different style of fishing. But yeah, I would say, when it comes to fishing line, you got it. look at where you fish, how you fish, and your arsenal of your stuff. But I appreciate that, Eli, throwing this example of the different rods that are in the mix and in the conversation, so that we can kind of like piece it together and put something in there. I would say, given those rod choices and that arsenal, that's how I would set it up. It might be a little bit different, but again, that could all change just because an angler is in a different part of the country. You know, fishing for a different species, a different temperament of fish, maybe even a different quality of fish too. I think that's about going to do it this week, guys, for Jigs and friggin' Bigs. I appreciate you guys for checking this out. I want to give you guys a big shout out and encourage you to keep those entries coming in for the Jigs and Bigs certified stud contest that's ongoing on Instagram. We're going to give it a few weeks until Joe is done traveling and all that stuff. We're going to select a date to go through all of the entries. We're going to give you guys until that date to submit your entries. And then Joe and I are going to go through all of these entries, determine what ones are going to make the cut for the tier list and what ones won't. And we're going to go ahead and set up the raffle wheel. We're going to give away some prizes. Somebody is going to win a very exclusive Jigs and Bigs t-shirt celebrating and announcing that they are, in fact,
the Jigs and Bigs certified stud.
You know, so go ahead. All you got to do is make a post, not a story post, a post on Instagram. Or go back to an old post and just add in there, edit your caption, hashtag JB certified stud, and make sure to tag American Vet Fishing and Jigs and Bigs. This way we get a notification, everybody knows, and we can put your, we can save your image. This all go, by the way, if you're an Instagrammer that cares about your engagement, by saving those to a specific folder, we're helping your engagement. So, I mean, you know, the more you do this, the more we can help you in that way too. Go ahead and check that out. What do we? John says, an all expenses paid trip to your local dispensary. I don't know if we're going that big, but you know, something along those lines. Hey, if you're one that partakes in the fish whistle, we're going to make this interesting. Ian says, fire podcast today, Bobby. Can't wait for the next one. Dude, I'm glad you were able to be here for it. Remember, guys, we will be recording next week's show, probably on an off time, probably not going to be Monday night necessarily, unless Joe is available. If he's available, then great. Then we'll stick to our regular. Oh, no, we won't. Not Monday night. That's right. I'm going to be working Monday night. Totally forgot about that. So yeah, we're definitely next week. It's going to be a new time. We're going to be figuring some stuff out. I might as well tell you guys in advance. You made it all the way back here. In the coming weeks, I will be adding a Monday account, and we're going to have to adjust and find where we're going to be recording the podcast. And it, unfortunately, might be a weird time of day. I think in the winter it's going to be no problem, but it might be a weird time of day. I'm going to try to push for a weekend, but again, I know that that's difficult because it makes shit crazy. So we'll figure it out. But man, I appreciate all you guys for listening to the show. You guys are absolutely amazing. The Jigs and Bigs family, the Jigs and Bigs audience, you guys are amazing, and we couldn't have gotten here without you. That's an absolute fact. Remember, if you're out there catching them, go ahead and post your pics on social media. Go ahead and tag us on everything. We like to show a little bit of love, and while you're there, you know, if you're posting any kind of fish pics, throw them in the Jigs and Bigs certified stud contest. Might as well have it work for you a little bit, right? It's super easy. We just went over the instructions to do it. Super, super easy. Remember, if you have something that you want to submit for the live well, you want to submit an FTG, just want to do a little bit of a shout out or something like that, you can always call or text us. The number at the hotline is 413-324-8519. jigsandbigs.com for all your Jigs and Bigs merch and stuff, and to save some cash with all of our partners. We're talking Dark Horse Tackle, we're talking Omnia Fishing, we're talking Arc Fishing, we're talking, I mean, you name it. We got, there's some Frost Buddy stuff in there. There is, what else do we have in there? The Omega Boat Steps, like all kinds of stuff. We got you all lined up. We will see you guys in 7 days. More Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up here. Wait, John says, can we submit a tip for the live well? If you want, You can submit a tip for the live. Well, that's fine, John. I'm open to that. But we will see you, like I said, 7 days. We got a bunch of really great interviews coming up, and I can't wait. We're halfway through 2025. We're on the back end of it now. Things are getting a little bit crazy, and I'm looking forward to this fall. I'm looking forward to an amazing wrapping up 2025 with all of you guys. Let's get out there and catch them and share our stories right here. I think it'll be good stuff. You guys have yourself a great one. We'll see you in 7 days of more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Don't go too far. Keep catching them. Like we always say,
Tits and ass, smoke some grass.